Welcome to stage 2, the first day of racing proper on this year's Vuelta. We're heading back to Burgos after taking a trip to Caleruega to start us off today. 166.7 kilometres ahead of us, and they have all been signing on for duty. Arnaud Demare, of course, amongst the favourites. There'll be some hunting for bonus seconds out on course. I'm wondering whether the likes of Bernal will be doing precisely that. Primoz Roglic, though, won the opening stage of this Vuelta with a blistering time trial in Burgos. Defending champion was the last man out and put just 6 seconds into Alex Aramburu, who'd been in the hot seat for much of the day. Roglic absolutely delighted to be back in red, something he's owned for the last 2 runs of La Vuelta. Can he make it a hat-trick? Well, it's a great start, that's for sure.
So there we are with our leader, Primoz Roglic. Where's your red jersey, Primoz?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. We were changing jerseys, and yeah, now I'm in our own jersey.
But imagine you wearing a red jersey. How does that feel coming back in the Vuelta immediately with this win?
Yeah, it's great actually, because yeah, it's always nice to win, and yeah, we can be super happy with today's win. But yeah, we all know with what goal we came here to have the red. Then yes, after the last stage. But anyway, today is yeah, you don't. We deserve to win, and we take it. It's great, and yeah, now we have to look up for the next stages.
What's the plan for the next few days for your team then? Is it to defend that jersey to whatever cost?
Yeah, we try to survive. It will be, I think, quite crazy now in the next days, and yeah, we need to keep the focus, do our best, and we see what happens. It's no problem if also others are taking it or whatever, but yes, like I said, looking then to the main goal, yes, it's try to get it then at the end of the Vuelta.
This is how it stacks up at the moment, but more than this, it's how he compares to the free race favourites. Vlasov is 14 seconds down, Mas 18 seconds down, Yates 20. Mikkel Landa lost 39 seconds in that short time trial. Goodness me, surely not all over yet. Of course not. Shiro. Good balanced teams then, all doing battle, some real head-to-heads indeed to come. And today, the first day of racing proper. Hot it certainly is. About 35 Celsius. Nothing to trouble Primoz Roglic, who's said to like the heat. What have we got for you then? Check it out. We headed south in order to come back home again to Burgos. We really are staying in Burgos. And westerly winds moving round to a northeasterly, swooping around at the end of the day. It's all about gullies between the hills, and there are some hills here. We're climbing about an altitude today, total altitude gain in terms of metres, just over 1,000 metres, nothing too serious. But it is going to be one for the quick men, we believe, despite the lumps and bumps along the way, and maybe a feisty push in the breakaway. Meanwhile, it's time for the local mayors to cut the ribbon, give themselves well, a sash perhaps. Who knows? I mean, you know, some of these chaps do well in beauty contests, you'll never know. This was our kilometre zero, a little bit earlier on today, with temperatures nudging up towards 36 and 37 Celsius. That's hot. So was the pace. Well, it was busy, and at the moment it's on monitoring duty for those who fancy having a sprint today, and why would they not? De Koning Quick Step helping out the duties just for the time being. De Koning, of course, working for Fabio Jakobsen, a man who everybody, I think, would love to see take a Grand Tour stage win here. Couple in Wallonia for him, stage wins that is, really looked to have boosted his confidence, but he then fell in the Heise pile, and we don't know what the result of that is. Team DSM as well, also with options today with Alberto Dainese, maybe Nico Dents leading him out. Dents is also capable of doing a cheeky one. Right now with 115.8 kilometres to go, just looking at the trees, trying to gauge how the wind is blowing today. And for the time being, it's kind of moderate, around about 10 or 12 kilometres per hour, so hardly blowing a hoolie. But let's see how it pans out a little later on. there is a breakaway, so he's the man who drew the short straw at the beginning of the day. Breakaway was always going to be up the road. How much head it would be allowed was anybody's guess, but it turned out to be about 3 minutes and 40. That's been pared back down, and for the time being at least, we're untroubled by the wind, as are indeed the cypress trees. But as you look further through indeed these archways here, I'm watching some of the taller arboreal streams here just wafting a little bit at the top, so you never know. When we get out into the wide open countryside, and as we say it, that's precisely what we get, you never know, the wind may start to blow a little bit more forthright fashion a little later on. Well, some of you are going to be taking a commercial break in just a short while. The gap's down to 2 minutes and 9 seconds as we stand for the time being, and our three brave riders are up the road. What chance for them? I should imagine bordering zero today, with so much liveliness behind. It was Groupama Francis de Jure, by the way, that instilled the drawback of these guys. Started to wind in the leash ever so slightly, and of course they're working for Arnaud Demare, who starts as the day's out-and-out favourite. There'll be a few to nip at his heels, you can be sure. And so it is. We have Francis de Jure out front, with De Koning helping the task at hand. Our leader, of course, Primoz Roglic, embedded within this group at the moment, wearing the red jersey. I haven't caught sight of it just yet. And Sean Kelly, it's not such a stressful day today. In fact, I think the organisers, with an individual time trial yesterday, and then this late start today, and a short one of 166 kilometres or thereabouts, it's not the ultimate test, and I think they'll be glad of that in this heat.
Yes, well, for the moment, it's not too hectic, too nervous out here, but as you go on, you know, in the earlier stages, fourth road stage, we had the time trial yesterday, it will get a bit nervous, and you can see here, we're in a part of the route where it's well sheltered here. You know, there's the little hills there at the side, a lot of tree coverings, but when you get into the open sections, and we are turning, you know, quite a bit on the, we're going north pretty much, but we do turn, you know, to left and right, so there is sections where it could be a bit more of a side wind, and if it opens up, well, then it can be nervous times. You can see here, you know, guessing from Jumbo-Visma, having a look around. I think all the leaders will stay pretty much to the front in these earlier days, because we know, you know, how nervous it can be, and we see in this year's Tour de France how hectic it was with all them crashes, and that will be on the mind of the riders and the DS as well. Just get through this stage, stay out of danger for the GC men, and the sprinters, of course, this is one of the days where they have to perform, and we can see the team of Demare is up there. They need a victory. Demare, he's had a very lean season so far, so he needs to pick off at least one or two stages in this Vuelta.
He certainly does. Yeah, Demare, since the Tour de France, hasn't raced. There's a few actually that are pretty much the same, so they've been extremely quiet since then, and Demare needs to go loud, and those races that he has won, and it looks like he's won a hatful, I think it's 10 this season, but they've not been against the most sterling of opposition. And something that's been a surprise to me, quite frankly, is that with so much a parcours with so many sprinter-friendly days to it, I'm surprised, Sean, we didn't get a bigger selection of sprinters coming along. I'm not complaining, but I still think we have some great head-to-heads to enjoy. But I think it's, dare I say it quietly, Sean, the kindest, most sprinter-friendly of Vuelta I've seen for quite some time.
Carlton might not be too friendly at the end of the day between the guys that are here, but yeah, there is quite a lot of very good sprinters here, but then there's a lot of very fast men as well, a little bit under that, you know, top number of names, and they will be thinking, well, you know, some of the fast men, the real fast men, are not in here. I could, you know, get a stage victory here. So it is going to be, you know, hotly contested, and today, early days in the stage race, everybody feels good, and there will be a lot of these guys going for it.
Welcome back, everybody. Those of you who've been away, just a reminder that if you go to the Eurosport app, or indeed the GCN app, you can find uninterrupted coverage of the Vuelta. And on the GCN app, of course, many other cycling-focused things. The Eurosport app, far more multi-sports focused, but if cycling is your thing and you dyed in the wool, then head off to the GCN app, have a route around. It's free to look. And then, of course, if you decide to subscribe, then you'll have uninterrupted coverage of not only the major races, but an awful lot of races that perhaps have not been upon your radar. It's a headwind for the time being, as you saw from the flappy flag. I'm glad we've had that, because it's quite constant, which is why the trees look reasonably static for the time being. However, these guys flat across the road, so no headwind, no crosswind, I beg your pardon, to play with just for the time being. But that is going to change, and it's going to change pretty soon when we get through Torresadino. That is in about 107 kilometres to go. So in about 4 kilometres time for the breakaway, and a couple of minutes later for these guys. And maybe that's why they're in team order already, because if we do get some fireworks today, it might be because of the wind, a crosswind. Let us wait and see. So there are some twists and turns, as Sean was saying, to those of you who are with us during the break, and we will enjoy the action therein. I think we've got a predictor for you.
Stage 2 of the Vuelta. For me, the winner will be Fabio Jakobsen from Deceuninck Quick-Step. It's 166 kilometres. It's a day for the sprinters. A lot of the teams will be controlling for the sprint teams, but Fabio Jakobsen will be the fastest man in the end of the day.
Alors pour aujourd'hui, même si le vent pourrait jouer
everyone could use this. For me, even if the wind could play a role in the stage, I can't avoid a bunch sprint in my mind. And so a French sprinter is going to be today, and it has to be Arnaud Demare, he says. I think he'll be hungry after a disappointing Tour de France. So let us see, giving up that team stage. I think he'll be out for revenge today, winning in Burgos.
Dès aujourd'hui, et je le vois s'imposer à Burgos.
The first real stage of this year's Vuelta is going to be won by Fabio Jakobsen. I think that the whole world believes that he deserves this win. It's going to be hot, it's going to be windy, and it's one of the very few sprinter stages in this year's Vuelta. He's going to be well protected by his teammates of Deceuninck Quick-Step, and Fabio Jakobsen is going to cross the finish line as first.
Die heutige Etappe
today's stage will be won by Arnaud Demare. It's a sprint finish, and Arnaud wants some revenge as he's disappointed with his Tour de France performance. He's highly motivated and will go for it. He'll win today, and that's a bonus. I'll tell you that who will be second? Michael Matthews. Jensi's dialed it in today. He's rack full of predictions. Well, let's see if he's right. It could be that some of the fast hard men, such as Michael Matthews, who's clearly on very good form, goes well today. I think there may well be some other options as well. The thing that will act against them, however, is the fact that we have more or less a 1.5 kilometre straight boulevard run today. And if the wind, as predicted, does move round to a headwind, I guess it could be that we have a bit of a compression, but lead-out trains are going to be vital, and the likes of Arnaud Demare have great lead-out trains to play with. Likewise, there's Fabio Jakobsen, actually. Not the greatest Deceuninck Quick-Step lead-out, and we'll be talking a lot more about it a little bit later on, but Zdeněk Stybar, Florian Seneschal and Bert van Lerberger, then why not? And if the crosswinds do blow, then Deceuninck Quick-Step, of course, will be masters of it. Being a Belgian team, they will certainly impose themselves a little bit later on. Seeing more accents of the wind, and that big turn I was telling you about is coming up in a couple of kilometres' time. Security bikes doing their thing. We're in the sort of wide open plains of Spain. It's not the hottest part of the nation, but still, the heat is there, and we're hovering around 35 Celsius today, Sean. Some like it, some don't.
Yes, well, some will, be used to the conditions we're having here today. Notably, the riders, from this area, and some of the riders have more northerly, maybe not having these conditions in the recent weeks, and that sometimes it takes a little bit of time, a couple of days to get into that. Just riding in the heat, so it could affect some of the riders in the earlier days, because this is quite warm conditions when you have to race full on, and especially when you go into the hills, which we have tomorrow at the end of the day.
Just looking at Sergio Martin today for Cairo Row. They've got a great option today with Jon Aberastori. Now, he's been running extremely well, went well in Burgos and indeed in a few other places as well. And has had the beating of the likes of Milano for UAE Team Emirates under his belt. So I think they may well go a little bit loud today. There'll be a few other surprises, I think, as well, quite potentially. If it is a headwind at the finish today, Sean, which a lot are predicting that it will be a flat headwind, the final turn comes with 1.5 kilometres to go before we get to the line. It's wide open with a lot of sprinting options, so not overly technical. Who do you think that's going to suit?
Well, I think this final is going to be a pretty hectic one. When you turn that right-hander just outside the 5 kilometres to go, there's quite a number of roundabouts to negotiate, and they turn around quite a bit as well. Sometimes the roundabouts, of course, as you know, Carlton, you can go pretty much straight through, but there's a number of them looks quite tight, and then there's just after 4 kilometres you go another right-hander. And the problem is today, there's so many riders will be able to stay up in the front, and they'll be all fighting to stay there. When the riders are fresh, it's a problem in the earlier days, and that is the reason we see crashes in the big tours, as we see in the Tour of France this year, because there's so many riders fighting for places up there. Where there's place for 30 riders, you probably have 50-60 riders fighting to be in that position, and that equals crashes. And today will be on the minds of the riders. You have to stay in the front, and there's so many riders with that orders from the director sportif. There's going to be a problem unless there's a team who can really get together with a number of riders in the front and keep the pace really rapid high. Then it will stretch out the bunch, of course, but if that's not the case and there's not a team in control, and the wind conditions will be important. If there's a headwind there in the finish, well, that makes it more difficult to keep the speed high, and teams coming up with a number of riders together, 4 or 5 riders, it is always a nervous one in these earlier days in the big tour.
Torres-Sedina, the big turn we've just made, as you have witnessed, and just to make sure that should the wind be blowing, or indeed any other teams try and do something, action the day, Deceuninck Quickstep, of course, are live to that threat, and they're on the front. They're doing a great policing job at the moment. Groupama Francis de Gire had a dreadful Tour de France. Arnaud Demare certainly. They were very much hobbled, weren't they, by what turned out to be a bit of a brutal race. And they seem to be the ones that got most of all. They are at the front, and as you've heard from many, are determined to have a much better time here. Let us wait and see. Got some Vuelta stories coming up for you. Well, I trust you enjoyed the interlude. Nice to see some social media if you'd like to join us. By the way, it's at Carlton Kirby on Twitter. CarltonKirby at Carlton Kirby, or indeed at Sean Kelly Cycling without the G. Meanwhile, at the moment, Sean looks kind of stress-free, so worth dwelling on yesterday and Primoz Roglic and the gaps that he posted on some of those that will be contending for the title a little bit later on. Adam Yates finished 20 seconds in arrears of Roglic, not too bad. Enric Mas, despite that big wobble we saw, Sean, almost got it into the barriers, held on to the bike, wondered what he might have done without that, but 18 seconds down, he starts as well. Miguel Angel Lopez, second behind Adam Yates, not too bad, but not brilliant either. But the big loser yesterday, to my mind anyway, a couple of them. Mikkel Landa, I really thought he would survive that particular time trial far better than he actually did. It was mixed terrain, and you'd have thought, well, maybe it's his best chance of holding on. It doesn't bode well for the time trial that is still to come, of course, at Santiago de Compostela on the final day. If Mikkel Landa has already shed 39 seconds on what I believe anyway was a course that shouldn't have been too much of a worry to him, but it turned out to be so.
Yes, well, there were some riders yesterday who lost, a bit more time than they would have probably calculated to lose. But that is the problem with an opening time trial. A short one, 7 kilometres. You have to get it right, and the likes of Landa in time trialing, he's always going to suffer. And we did see him yesterday, the way he was riding. He wasn't really, taking the risk in that final number of kilometres, going into the corners at a very high rate. He was, knocking up his speed quite a lot, and if you do that, well, then you're going to lose that fraction of a second, 0.5 of a second in a corner, and all of that adds up at the end of the day. And he wasn't the only one, of course, because we see Hugh Carty, who lost that 33 seconds. I think he would have been hoping to be around the 20 seconds maybe, and then Micah also losing a lot, another one who you would expect. He lost 33 seconds as well. Bernal 27 seconds. I think he would be hoping to be inside 20 seconds at least of the winner, and it was always for me Roglic was going to be the one to beat yesterday, because when you see that parcours, the uphill at the start, and then the difficult final number of kilometres to line, where we see so many riders losing time in the final 2.5 kilometres, it seemed to be the catch point where the riders were losing that 4, 5, 7, 10 seconds all the time when we got into the more serious contenders in this race. But it's not a disaster for anybody, but when you're starting a 3-week tour, you always think about it. Every second could count here at the end of the day, and you want to lose the least amount of time possible in an opening time trial.
Exactly. And indeed Primoz Roglic himself yesterday saying, they said, how did you do it? So, well, I attacked the hill, then I attacked the descent, and then I attacked every single corner. That was it. It was just basically all in, Sean, and there was one man who did it better than anyone else, and it's the man who's back-to-back champions of the Vuelta, Primoz Roglic. It was outstanding.
Yes, well, he was outstanding yesterday, and he is on great form, and we see in the Olympic time trial, the way he put the time into a lot of the other riders, and the way he finished in the end. He is a super time trialist, and we know that for many years now, although he had his down days as well, where he wasn't in the super condition, and cost him dearly, notably in the Tour of France when he was beaten last year. But yeah, he did the job yesterday, and I think to get on the road in that situation for the team, morale-wise, when you win the opening time trial, it gives such a boost to you and to the team as well. It's a great way to start off the tour, and yeah, we'll see now in the next number of days. He was asked as well about the red jersey, will he hold on? And he said, well, we'll see, and that's always the case as well, depending on the situation of the race in the next number of days. If it's going to be really difficult, where Jumbo-Visma have to ride very, very strong and put in a lot of effort just to hold the jersey against somebody who is no danger, who may be going into that position of race leader, who is going to be no danger at the end of the race. We could see them just knocking it off a bit, and somebody taking the jersey for a number of days. But perfect start for the big favourite, for one of the big favourites, Roglic. A dream start here yesterday in the time trial.
Well, we're going to hear from Luka Mezgec in just a short while. You will have noticed as well that we have the side of the road, Team DSM doing a fantastic job of just making sure that they keep Romain Bardet up towards the fore. In fact, it's they that are on your screen on the right-hand side as you look at it right now. And they had a terrific run yesterday. Romain Bardet, absolutely outstanding. Let's hear from Luka Mezgec before we dwell on that point.
Luka Mezgec for the team bike exchange at the start of the second stage of this Vuelta. Today is an important day for the sprinters. It will be hard, maybe not a massive sprint at the finish. Maybe this is what your team hopes.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult day. Obviously, day one actually after yesterday's time trial, and everybody's on. A lot of crosswinds, a lot of tricky sections during the day. So yeah, it's not necessarily that we're going to have a sprint there.
And this is better for guys like you, for guys like Michael Matthews. This is what you want, a big fight during the stage?
Yeah, normally we compete better when we are a little bit more tired, when it's a hard stage, and yeah, definitely it's better, a bit of a carnage today going into the final than just a easy sprint stage.
So we'll probably see your team at the front if there is a bit of wind.
Yeah, we'll be on, definitely, we'll be on.
Thank you, Luka.
Thanks.
Good man. Luka Mezgec will be part of that lead-out train, of course. The Slovenian will be in there, along with Rob Stannard, the Australian, for Michael Math. You never know. Sander Armé of Team Quebecer Nextash, one of those that took a tumble yesterday. And one of those that was on the ground was Jasper Philipsen for Alpecin-Fenix. Sean seems to bounce okay, though. Started without looking like he had not too much troubles at the beginning of the day. Let's hope that's the case.
Yes, well, certainly that's the case, and you know, you would prefer to see that everybody starts in pretty good physical order in this race, and you know, just get on with it, and whatever, you know, their objective is in this race, to try and be in a physical state to challenge, and that means for the sprinters here today, for the GC men, which is, you know, a stage tomorrow with that uphill finish, and then a number of days where we will see the fast men once again. So yeah, that's what we need, and you know, we never like to see, you know, somebody having a problem because of a previous fall where they're carrying a little bit of an injury. Is not great, but that's the risk of bike racing, and unfortunately it does happen. And let's hope, you know, this final here today, we see that it's a clean run for, you know, all the riders, and everybody gets, you know, a good run for the sprinters, especially the sprinters. But the GC men, they're going to have to fight big time today in this final. We did hear from Mezgec there that he was expecting a nervous day, the crosswinds, and you can see now where we are. Like, we're out in, you know, this open terrain, and if you're in a section where there's a little bit of a side wind as you get closer to the finish, it can be a problem, because when teams are driving on, it's just going to make everybody hyper nervous.
Well, we've got another turn coming up for you. You know, for our breakaway, it'll be obviously a minute and 45 ahead of these guys. But when the ticker says 97.4 kilometres, we take a big, sharp left-hander, and that, if the wind is indeed a westerly, it looks like it is, will offer up a tailwind all of a sudden. So a bit of respite. Today's stage looks like a kid has just drawn a zigzag up vertically back to Burgos, where we are indeed finishing, where we had our time trial yesterday. So everyone got into the coaches and was deposited at the start today. Only a short day, 166.7 kilometres in total. Not the biggest of tests. Does have that altitude gain of just over 1,000 metres, as we mentioned. And a lot of the flattish days that we have, we've got a particular example of it tomorrow, have really spiteful and peaky ends. Tomorrow it's up to Picon Blanco, the white spike, I think it is. We'll see how that one ends tomorrow. It should be the first time that we see some real attacking action. It's a proper test at the end of the day. No KOM points today, which means that Sepp Kuss holds on to that jersey. Do you think he battled for it yesterday, Sean? Do you think that was the idea, and then he found himself at the top and thought, well, that went well, I may as well just carry on, and got himself a polka dot, and there he is on our screens.
Yes, well, I think the objective was to do it a good time trial, and for Sepp Kuss, you know, the first 2.5 kilometres, that's where he can really, you know, make the advantage and try and, you know, hold on from there, and that's what I think he did, because he was, you know, quite a good place at the end. considering that in the time trial it's not his fourth day point and he finished at 15 seconds, I thought he would be the rider where you'd see him at that 20-25 seconds down on the winner. So a great performance yesterday. And as I said yesterday, sometimes you prepare well for the time trial, which all the riders will try and do, but the legs, they just do not feel at their best when you get out on the road, and that first part of it, the uphill, was always going to give you an indicator of how you're feeling. And if you have the real good legs, you feel good, well then you push on. I think Seb Kuss, it was one of his good time trials, maybe his better ones yesterday.
What I love as well, Sean, is when you see the whole demeanour of a team getting into the action. Romain Bardet's performance yesterday for Team DSM was absolutely outstanding. He looked really determined, and I think probably to bounce back. 17 seconds down he finished at the end of the day, which is more than respectable. In fact, headed an awful lot of the pre-race favourites. Whether you count him as one or not is up to you, but he looked like one of the strongest men in Burgos, that's for sure, before the crash, of course, and it looks like he hasn't sustained too much damage, which we can take a great deal of heart from, and Team DSM most certainly will. I think they got a big boost yesterday, and I think as well they will probably believe in the likes of Alberto Dainese and Nico Dents today, but it'll be about keeping Bardet where he needs to be, and maybe for a successful run on this Vuelta. I hope it happens for them. I really enjoy watching them as a team. Welcome back, everybody. Just been pondering who went well yesterday, and indeed various teams and their demeanour today. How are they setting their stall out on this day? Team DSM, I don't think they were sure that Romain Bardet would make it after his tumble in Burgos, where he'd been going so well, but he did, and produced an absolute belter of a time trial yesterday. He's reinvigorated himself, and he's got a good team to back him up deeper into this race as well. Michael Storer also running well. He ran well in Tour de Lane. We've got Dainese and Nico Dents for the sprint today, and it might be more mixed than you think, especially if this day gets a little bit tougher. And the way it's standing at the moment, with 98.1 kilometres to go, we are about to make another turn. This time it will be to offer the riders up a tailwind, so a little bit of more impetus, I think it's fair to say, before we get to another strange little crossroads in these wide open spaces. Tor Domar will be the next one, where we'll suddenly turn northwest, and that will be a big one to watch out for, with about 85 kilometres to go. So they're coming thick and fast, these twists and turns. Looks like some scorched legs on display here. This is Madrazo for Burgos. They've got Carlos Canal for a little bit later on. Dani Navarro is their veteran hope for the overall, but no surprise to see them in the break. The invitee teams, Sean, they're expected to get up there, almost sacrificial lambs, really. And we've got three of them up the road, but chance of victory today, I think, approaching zero.
Yes, it looked very difficult for the breakaway to have any chance of going all the way, and they will never allow that that magic, I suppose, 8-9 minutes where you would be hoping then that they could get into the final, maybe 50 or 60 kilometres with 4 to 5 minutes in advantage, and then you have a great chance. But again, the teams of the sprinters controlling very quickly. The moment we went out to 3:30 or 3:40, I think maximum it was, they started to control, and it wasn't the team of Primoz Roglic, the race leader. It was the sprinters teams. I think it was Frances de Joux was the first one, then the Coney Quickstep, of course, and they're the ones we see every time we pan to the front of the main peloton. It's the two teams who are controlling here, and 1:26 at the moment. Yeah, it's going to be not possible for the breakaway today. It's all about this big sprint, and yeah, the teams who have got fast men, there will be more and more of them coming to the front as we get into the final 50 kilometres.
That's that big turn at Villa Furuela. Now we're coming to the next little shimmy in a short while. It looks like DSM have actually done their homework here today. They are interested in the pace, and indeed making sure that they stay up towards the front. We have some rises and falls today. The biggest hill will come with about 40 kilometres to go. If you scan the horizon here, it's hard to pick out any hill, but that little bit of darkness way off in the future, if you're looking at this road, you can see that there are some lumps and bumps for us to play with, but apart from that, you could probably play snooker on this, to be honest. Minute and 23, they're taking their sustenance where they can get it, these boys, and so it's our job to look deeper into the day and who are likely to be our favourites. Remind me, Sean, who's your pick today? Is it Jakobsen?
Yes, Jakobsen is my pick for today, and the team, as you mentioned, the Coney Quickstep, maybe not this super lead-out team, but still they have a number of riders here capable of looking after him, and he's had a good run of late, and I think he's improving all the time as well from his very bad accident 12 months ago. The last number of weeks, the last number of months, he's just improving all the time, and I think he will be the fastest on the stage today.
Well, to make the turn here, it looks like somewhere alive to the threat, but by the look of the grass and the straw here, it's not going to be knocked it down, I'm afraid. Looks like it's harvest time as well, Sean. Is it haylage, silage? Is it straw, silage, or haylage? What do you reckon?
Corn. You know that, Carlson.
I know. I was just putting one up for you to knock out the stadium. Well, it looks like it's nearly complete. I'm not sure what they're growing here as well. That may well be maize likewise, something that rips the goodness out of the ground. Generally you tend to grow maize on poor loam soil, but I'm teaching a granny to suck eggs here with Sean Kelly. Some sunflowers as well for you to ponder as these guys go for the feed. They were worried about the turn, Sean. I kind of feel like they're preparing themselves and almost practicing for when the turns become more significant later on if the wind blows up, because each time they make one of these turns and expecting there to be an imminent danger of a change in the wind's direction, they reach it and think, oh well, not as bad as I thought, but safety first. You've got to be marshalling it, and where you need to be is at the front at moments like that.
Yes, well, when you're riding at the pace, we can see the three breakaway riders. They're on a plane here where it is wide open, and then we see the peloton there. They're riding along at a strong pace, but it's when you really get into the final, when teams want to push on, and you get to the part of the race where the race will be on, and that could be down to 40 kilometres to go. It could also start 60 kilometres out. If teams start to push on, other teams will be watching for that, the movement towards the front end of the peloton, and then it starts to get nervous. And if you get 2 or 3 teams wanting to boss the front of the peloton to take control, the pace can go up by 5-7 kilometres an hour very, very quickly, and you can be up to 60 kilometres per hour, and that's when it gets difficult. Even if there's not a lot of wind blowing, if it's a little bit from the side and they really drive it on out front, the peloton, then it could be a problem. We could see these echelons and the splits starting to appear. So today is a day where everybody will be just playing careful, stay to the front, and the more you get into the final, you have to be in that top 20-30 riders all the time. And the director sport teams as well, sometimes they're a bit over anxious, maybe a bit nervous, and they're telling the riders keep Romain at the front, make sure you keep him in that top 10, and that can make the riders a bit more nervous, a bit too early in the race as well, because some directors they are a bit too much on the radio to the riders in the peloton. And but yeah, you have to just stay safe today. That's what the GC men want to do here: play safe, get this stage over with, and not to lose any more time. If you've lost time in the time trial yesterday, you certainly don't want to lose any second here today. And in the final 15-20 kilometres, the split, you could lose that 20-30 seconds so quickly. And you can see the leading group out front in the distance, but the clock, the seconds tick by so quickly. So this is it is an ingredient for a nervous day. And you can see here where we are at the moment, just open play, and if you get a little bit of wind here from the side and they really race full gas, well then it is always a danger zone.
As you can see, it is a bit of a tailwind that they've got at the moment. If you look at the reeds bending in the wind at the moment, and so this will be a benefit. You saw as well that just before that turn at 97 k's to go, about 5 kilometres ago, the gap had almost automatically come down, almost to danger level really, just over the minute, about minute and 10, something like that it was, minute and 19 perhaps. Yeah, they were in danger of accidentally catching the break, and that's far too far out, quite frankly. Nobody wants that to happen in particular, and as a result, they've eased up, they've taken the feed and allowed the gap to go back out to 2 minutes, and calm has returned. But when will that end? Just speculating as to when the calm demeanour in the peloton will indeed change, and I've got a feeling it might well be in about 6 kilometres time, because we're about to take another twist in the road. It'll be a left-hander with about 86 kilometres to go. I bet you're glad I've done my homework. The twists and turns today. There is Omar Fraile. He set an early benchmark yesterday. The Spanish champion looked very, very good on the time trial bike. It was a day that suited the punchers, the baroudeurs, and we'll have a few of the sprinting days as well, not least stage 4, where it looks reasonably flat, but it's got a nasty kicker towards the end, and you could see someone like Fraile just enjoying life, if indeed he's allowed to, and is not in abject support of Alexander Vlasov, who went very well yesterday as well. There's a few that had some ill fortune, and that's something you can never account for, to be honest, in a Grand Tour. Sean, on this year's Tour de France, we lost so many riders with crashes, and so many hopes were dashed as well, weren't there?
Well, this year's Tour de France was, hectic first number of days, and the huge crashes we had, and the big favourites, getting taken out in these big crashes, then carrying injuries, and for some of them had to retire, at the end of the first week. Some, battled on and, never got back to the level that they were at the start of the tour. And, that's always the concern. So, you try and just get through these earlier days without having any mishaps taken out in crashes, and get on with the race. And if you lose a bit of time yesterday, as we talked about, losing 25 plus seconds, that's not the disaster. Where if you come down in a crash and you get a bad injury, well, then you're going to carry that for quite a number of days. And sometimes, if you come down heavily and you break something, well, then it's race over. And that's what you're thinking of in these early days as well. Just get through the stages, get through them safely, get the first 4 or 5 days over with, the first week maybe, and things will start to settle then. It calms a bit after that. When you get into the first mountain stages, and we have one tomorrow, an uphill finish, but I think it's on the end of the week. Then on day 7, I think there's a big climb, and when you get that over with, then things will start to calm down, and the race will be not anything as nervous as it will be in the first days. And that's what you need as a GC rider. Get through those without having any majorly difficulty, and then see how you're going to perform into the second week, and more so the third week. If you can hold a good position going into the third week, then if you're improving all the time, that's where you can make the difference on the final week.
There you are. So if you're bemoaning the fact that we've got a flattish stage today, and we had what was effectively a prologue time trial yesterday, which I thought was brilliant actually, then excuse me, it's possibly time for you to reevaluate your expectations, because although the racing was very dramatic, it was too brutal at the beginning of the Tour de France, I think. An amended course, as we well know, supposed to start in Denmark, and as a result we had those horrendous crashes which took out so many, including Roglic, of course, ultimately as well. The injuries that he sustained on the opening day were carried deeper into that race, and it hobbled too much of the peloton, I think. So we can ask for drama, Sean, but sometimes it's to the detriment of the race, I think, on occasion. And the way that the Vuelta started yesterday, I loved it, actually. Having that prologue length time trial, especially with the sort of parcours that we were offered. And it seems to me that the race organiser, Javier Guillen, he really knows how to produce a great show, and has done so over the last couple of seasons. Yes, well, the Vuelta has been really good over the last number of years. Because when you consider the Vuelta as the end of, coming to the end of the season, it's the last big 3-weeker. A lot of riders, have quite a lot of racing done, so fatigue is a problem, and sometimes the race, can be very boring. And the race organisers, they have come up with, some great ideas, and shortened the stages course, which they've done many years ago. Then these uphill finishes as well, it makes it more interesting. And they have been lucky, getting the fields
for the GC, if you look back over the past number of years, they've got a fabulous GC contenders on the start line. They've also had some good sprinters that we have here this year. So in general, the racing has been really good in the Vuelta in the last number of years. Interesting racing, and let's hope it continues that way. As you mentioned, Carlson, to get through those 4 days. Prologue yesterday, it does calm it a little bit because then you have a leader starting out on the first road stage. But when you get into the part of the stage, as we're going to do today, if the windy conditions are there, it will be still nervous, and that is always a concerning point for a lot of the riders, that they do not lose some of your leaders because of those crashes that can occur if the race and the windy conditions makes it very, very, very nervous.
Oh, we're waiting for the wind at the moment, aren't we? I mean, it can vector in this part of the world where especially if we're up towards the north, which is of course the Atlantic coast, as it starts to beckon. Yeah, and you can see the wind here, it's just starting to billow just a little bit, and it will start to twist because with vectoring the land heats up, the air rises, and you draw in cooler air from elsewhere. And if you're not that far from the coast, and meteorologically we're not that far away, it draws in cool air. We do have some hills to play with as well, so that kind of swirls about. So if you're thinking, well, it was a westerly, how is that going to swing round to a northeasterly later on? Well, it will. It's all to do with gullying around the hills that we're going to start playing with as well. So just bear with us on that. We've nailed all the turns so far. It's just that they haven't been significant in terms of the wind. Now, the wind is supposedly going to be a major factor between 65 kilometres to go and about 45. That's when Brian Smith has chosen to join us a little bit later on. We'll be joined by Magnus Backstedt fairly shortly. In fact, once this break is indeed over with, and we'll welcome him and everyone else back into position. 62 kilometres per hour. They're not hanging around. Just look at the pace. We found a hill. There's another one coming right here. It's a gentle roller coaster, let's put it that way. One of the roller coasters you see at a fun fair for the kids. It's cheap, they're happy. You get yourself an ice cream. What could be better? Today it's about 35 Celsius, and if you want a sweet treat, then we've got Magnus Backstedt jumping in. Are you with us, Maggie?
I am.
No, it'd be nice if you got your headset on.
Oh, I now got it on, yeah. It just caught me by surprise there, Colin.
Put the beer down. It's a serious business. Oh, dear. Well, we've been shooting the breeze because there isn't one at the moment, Magnus, but it may well blow up. And there's enough nerves here. Every time we come to a big turn, it seems that the teams just want to make sure that they're in the best place, and the DSs will be going mad with every single one of them. But the major turn we are waiting for is with about 64 kilometres to go. It could get hairy, Magnus. Here's another big turn for you. You see the sort of dangers of the compression that we often get if the DSs are telling everyone to be at the front. You won't all fit.
No, you definitely won't. But yeah, these kind of changes in direction is what makes it nervous and what makes everyone want to be near the front all the time, because you never know. Even though we haven't got a lot of wind about, there's still some wind out there, and it doesn't take an awful lot if a team decides that this is a good opportunity to put some pressure on, so make sure that everyone is awake and see what they can create with it. So yeah, I don't think we actually need that much wind, and currently we're looking at about sort of 15 kilometers an hour winds. So it's enough out there to really do some damage if you want to.
It's a gorgeous surface to play with. It looks like they've newly laid this road, and as they take their comfort breaks, you can turn granny to the wall, as the great Dave Duffield used to say. I think we've got an interview coming up for you right now.
So I'm here with Alberto Dainese, makes his debut in a Grand Tour. That is your debut, Alberto. What do you think of this first stage with the first chance to go for a sprint?
Yeah, it's first opportunity for the sprinters today, but yeah, it can be also echelons with the wind, and for sure it will be hectic as it's the first stage after the time trial yesterday, but yeah, we keep an eye on Bardet and then give it a try in the final.
But of course Bardet is important for you, for the GC. Still, you got your own chances today in the mass sprint, right?
Yeah, for sure. If I'm there in the final, I try and do my best. And there's a lot of good sprinters here, so already like to challenge them and in a final will be nice for me. Yeah.
Will you be protected as well in the final with a small train?
Yeah, I got Nico Dense. Will give me a hand in the final, so yeah, hopefully we'll be fine.
How different will it be, do you think, in this Grand Tour? Because it's your first Grand Tour.
Yeah, just try to take it day by day and then see how it goes. And I'm in good shape, so hopefully I can do it well. And yeah, give a hand also for the team.
Yeah, we wish him luck as well. Alberto Dainese, he's got Nico Dense as his sole lead-out man, and it may well be that the crosswinds provides a little bit of a challenge to him later on, and we'll see. If it turns into a headwind sprint finish, just about when, Magnus, are they likely to light it up at in the run on a dead arrow straight highway? It does rise about 0.5%, nothing to worry about. But with a headwind, if that is blowing, will the likes of Dainese suffer out there more than most?
You mean in the final sprint?
Yeah, because he's not got much of a lead-out train. He's got Nico Dense with him. No disrespect to Nico, of course, but there'll be a lot better protected riders, I think, for the run for home.
Yeah, I think because we got that sort of 1,500 metre straight, arrow straight finish. I mean, if you're good at positioning yourself, and if you got at least one rider with you to keep you in a good place, then you can actually. By the time the leader is launched properly by one of the bigger teams that's come here with a full lineup of lead-out riders, if you get positioned well at that point when the speed is already high, then you can surf the wheel and actually do a good job on your own in a sprint like today. But it is always that sort of fight to get to the final corner there with 1,500 meters to go, and as long as you're not too far behind coming out of that turn, and with one rider in front of you, they should be able to get you up into the position where you need to be. And you know, it's anyone's game from that point onwards, really. But we got so many good sprinters here that I'm expecting it to be a really fast running, and you know, the usual sort of Grand Tour carnage in the final sort of 5 kilometres or so.
Yeah, well, it's a nice wide highway for them to play with. Fabio Jakobsen, you've just seen his team displayed here for you, De Koning Quickstep. They'll have no fears when it comes to the crosswinds, and they're riding it like it's a Sunday afternooner for them. A lot more twitchy are some of the other teams. A few moments ago, by the way, it was interesting to see Ineos Grenadiers. I think it was Tom Pidcock who was at the front, who yesterday just kind of freewheeled across the line in the time trial. It was like, yeah, look, I've been partying. Leave me alone.
Yeah, he went off the ramp with great intent, though, didn't he? And then it's sort of, I think he realised quickly after about the second corner that the legs weren't responding the way that he thought they were going to.
His mind said go and the legs said no. Well, he crossed the line yesterday, and he was more than happy enough. He's still got the afterglow of a mountain bike gold. Some of you have been enjoying the mountain biking earlier on today. And indeed, if cycling is your thing, don't forget the GCN app is really should be your home, where you can enjoy yourself exponentially, I think. Today, the action will be compressed towards the rear, you might think, but in about 7 or 8 kilometres time, the wind may well pick up. That's the prediction, and just as that happens, Sean Kelly will take himself a brief break, and Brian Smith will be joining us in about 7k's time. Sean, I noted that Thomas Pidcock, they got a feed bag, and the Ineos Grenadiers feed bags are very distinctive, bright tangerine. You can pick them out in a crowd, and he was just about to throw it away, and the cameraman shook his finger, not to say don't throw it away, because it was in an acceptable zone to do so, but he wanted it. He asked it, can I have your bag, please? So yeah, some kit more treasured than others, but Ineos Grenadiers still has a big following here.
Yes, well, of course they have got a following, and you know, all fans cycling, not the ones on the side of the road, but a lot of the guys on the motorbikes here working for the TV cameramen. They're huge fans of the races and of the riders, and to get a souvenir from any of the riders, and especially like Pitcock, who was the recent Olympic gold medal in the mountain biking. It's normal that they're looking for those souvenirs, and maybe he rides a bike with his buddies and he can always go back and brag about that. I got Tom Pitcock's Musette, his feed bag in the first stage of this year's Vuelta. So yeah, and of course as well, you cannot throw down the bags now, throw anything when you're out of the zone. So yeah, it's nice to be able to get somebody to take our bag. But yeah, we can you can see there the peloton, as you said, everybody is just waiting, watching, and see what's going to happen here. And you're calling a lot of these corners, Carlton. The next corner go around is going to be the wind. I'd hate to have you as a DS, because you would make it so nervous for all the riders in the team.
Come on, lads, definitely. Get yourself in.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
It's my job. Yeah. 81 kilometres to go. Sunflowers looking elsewhere at the moment. Shadows getting a little bit longer. Having an evening time trial yesterday was, I think, was a great idea. And most of the favourites kind of backed or picked their spot to go late on. But some indeed decided to hell with it. Let's just get out there and get fried. Today, no option for anyone. All starting at the same time, of course. And the temperature's nudging around about 30, 35 Celsius. That's not as bad as it can be. And in fact, further south in Spain, where we'll be heading, some temperatures are nudging over 45 Celsius. That's halfway to boiling point, just about. And I think this race in itself will indeed start to certainly hot up as we get towards the end today. When you come in and out of these towns, sometimes they offer up a little bit of screens, and those that have done their homework know that when you come out the other side of them, there's an opportunity. But it looks like for the time being, with the wind ebbing almost as much as the enthusiasm of those at the back here, they're cruising along. There'll be a lot of fresh legs at the end of the day, that's for sure, Sean.
Yes, well, in the early days of the race, and everybody comes to this race and they're going to be that bit fresher, and that is the problem in the end as well. If it's going to be a headwind running in, well, then that makes it difficult to keep the pace, very, very high, not to allow riders and teams to move up in the final number of kilometres. And because of they being fresh, starting out, the first number of days is always a problem. And you'll have guys up there who will be, pushing and throwing their weight around, and they're not going to be in the top 5 or the top 10. And it's something that a lot of the sprint teams and the sprinters do not like, but everybody have the right to be up there and have a go for it. But early days, because of the freshness of everybody here in the peloton, that can be a problem, because so many riders fighting for a minimum amount of places on the front, and going into those corners in that final 10 or 15 kilometres, it can get quite hectic. And if you throw a bit of wind in where it comes from the side, that makes it more hectic again.
Certainly does. You're seeing another big turn coming up in a short while as we come into Villahos. And you can also see as well, if you look down at the peloton, that there's kind of a compression about a third away from the top. We've seen riders moving up on the right-hand side of the road, and this is DS is basically just telling them to get into position. We are going to hear from Jasper Philipsen in a few moments' time. He's not had a bad old run of things. 6 podiums on the Tour de France, so it kind of went well for him. Didn't win one. Nonetheless, 6 podiums for Philipsen. He's here with a very focused Alpecin-Fenix team, and a good lead out as well with the likes of Sasha Modulo that Magnus is very fond of. We have Ed Blankert as well. Scott Thwaites, I think, will be involved in the lead out, and Alex Krieger. And do you know what I said about that little bunching? There we are. A little bit of a bump, nothing too serious. It's the it's the Burgos boys, I beg your pardon, who are just getting themselves back to where they need to be. Just taking a moment there was Anton Palzer, getting rid of some ballast. Jay Vine gets himself back up by the looks of things. a modest bump, but let that be a warning to everyone. The road looks, perhaps, when we get down there, a little bit wider than it actually is, I'm afraid. And there's always going to be an opportunity for somebody just to get it wrong if there's real estate is at a premium. It's my fault for telling him that there's a twist in the road coming up. Let's hear from Jasper Philipsen, shall we? From Alpecin-Fenix. Can he turn one of those podiums at the Tour into a victory here?
Jasper Philipsen of the Alpecin-Fenix team. Jasper, you fell yesterday. First of all, what happened yesterday with that fall?
Yeah, it was just a stupid accident. Actually, I didn't expect it. The corner was turned that hard. So I just went out of it and went a bit too quick in it, and it was a little mistake.
Not much trouble then for today's stage in the sprints?
No, normally it's okay. I know how the asphalt feels again, so let's hope we had the worst part of the baddest part of the bad luck already from the Vuelta, but let's see. Today I think we can start with 100% confidence.
What are the expectations of this stage? Do you fear some wind on the way?
Yeah, it's for sure something we consider. We also gonna see what's possible in the race, and for sure we need to be attentive, but of course we also want to have a bunch sprint. Thank
you. We also want to have a bunch sprint. Magnus, pure sprinter or hard man today?
Pure sprinter today.
Who's your pick?
Jasper Philipsen.
There you are. You just heard from him. Took a bump yesterday. A few did, actually. 3 or 4 riders found themselves on the deck. I felt for you as well with Ludvigsson, your Swedish buddy. I think if he hadn't made the bike change, he'd have certainly been top 5.
Yeah, judging by the time that he lost in the bike change and the time gap that he had at the top of the hill, he basically held that all the way to the finish. So yeah, he was going really quite well, which bodes well for the rest of the Vuelta, really, for him. And also, I think he always plays a big part in that sort of, especially the early part of the lead-out train for Arnaud Demare. So if Ludvigsson is going that well, then at least they got a big engine there to get the sort of the big job done in terms of setting Arnaud Demare up. But yeah, for me today, I think it's all about Philipsen, and I think Jakobsen's going to be in there as well with a shout today.
The diminutive Jay Vine, who's the GC Hulk for Alpecin-Fenix, it's on his Grand Tour debut. Had a bit of a tummy bug, didn't he, in Burgos? Did the Australian, so hoping he goes well. Philipsen, not a bad lead-out train either. He could make a bit of a noise today. We shall see. I've got a feeling somebody might go a bit freestyle, and I've really enjoyed. Was it in Valenciana? The likes of Jon Aberastori for Caja Rural, who really is somebody who makes a nuisance of himself at the very end. I think Cofidis Aligar as well, the Belgian, very clever rider. I think talking podium places only, because I think that Arnaud Demare, Jakobsen and Philipsen are the ones that are going to duke it out today. But don't discount the likes of Michael Matthews either. We're going to take a commercial break in just a short while. Sean Kelly is going to take a bow. He'll be back with us a little bit later on with about 45 kilometres to go. In the meantime, we're going to be saying hello to Brian Smith shortly as well. He of the steel helmet, who knows a thing or two, as you'll find out. No chance of rust today, so Brian's very pleased because it's absolutely bone dry, hovering around 35 Celsius. Some of you can go and make yourself a cup of tea. The rest of us are going to stay put here on the GCN app. 91 seconds. That's all the gap is. I think this breakaway is almost accidentally being caught here with a change of pace, Magnus.
Yeah, it almost seems like it, but sometimes when you get to the front and you start riding, it's easy to just invest that little bit too much energy and speed into the chase, and you catch them too quickly, and then you realise that and end up backing off completely again. So it's not uncommon to see the time gap sort of yo-yo up and down here, and especially on the opening stages before the racing kind of settles in and everyone gets a feel for what's going on. But yeah, and we still have that sort of the nerves in the peloton of the potential crosswinds that may or may not arrive, and yeah, everyone is worried about that.
Feed time then, and taking on board what I don't know, you might get yourself a little treat in there. That kind of thing
chocolate
happens
today, though.
Yeah, well, yeah. Mind you, they have a different recipe, you know, for chocolate in some of the hotter countries. Some of the big manufacturers, I don't know what they put in it, but possibly a little bit more starch or something. I don't know, I'm guessing. I don't know what the recipe is. But I spent some time in the South Pacific, and we had chocolate there that didn't melt. It tasted absolutely awful.
You're really selling that now.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was cardboard with cocoa, basically. There's a man in resplendent in red. It is, of course, Primoz Roglic, and a man who I think looked very, very well in charge of himself and his destiny yesterday. He was magnificent, Magnus, and I really felt sorry for Aaron Burrow, to be honest. He'd been in the hot seat, and it wasn't the most comfortable seat either, was it? It was a sort of a flap-down chair from the back of the church.
Well, it seemed like it, didn't it? But
he couldn't really kick back and relax, but he was there and fully engaged right until the very end, and then Roglic stole it. It's one of those things.
It's on the prologue, when the time gaps are so small between all the riders, it's a horrible place to be, because you're sitting there on the edge of your seat the whole time, wondering whether you're gonna get picked or not. And unfortunately for Aramburu, he had to sit there all the way until the last rider rolling off the ramp and coming across the line, and Primoz Roglic to be unseated from that throne there. And yeah, I felt for him, but you know, Primoz Roglic rode a very, very well-measured ride, if you can do that in such a short prologue and or time trial. But yeah, it's another spectacular ride by the time trial master himself.
Aaron Burrow did a great job though on a mixed course. I think he clearly knew it very well indeed. Highways opened up to 4 lanes, and they're taking their feed, and the gap is hovering around a minute and a half here. Welcome back, everybody. It's nosebag time. No great stress. While they were going to approach the feed, they decided to close the gap down on the breakaway, just to give themselves some wiggle time to start digging into these bags and just taking out the goodies, which you can find therein. Lots of riders have different preferences as to what is contained within. Looks like some smoothies going down here as well. Gels and indeed bar. Anyone want a bar? No. You can't give it away at the moment. Well, they've been well fed today, and it's not been a massive stress, Magnus. It's one of those days where well, let's welcome Brian in, shall we? It's one of those days where quite frankly, all of the action is going to get compressed at the end, Brian, but no shame in that. It looks like everyone has decided that this is comfort break time.
The problem you've got with a stage like this is you never know what's round the corner, and in other stages you've got the route to the climbs, you know where everything is. In a day like today, you don't know where the wind is going to come from, because it does kind of swivel a little bit and come from different directions, and we do twist and turn, and you really need accurate information, so it just makes it a hell of a lot nervy than any other stage. This is possibly a more challenging stage than it seems to the eye at the moment, because of that kind of nervous nature. You don't know what's coming, you don't know if the wind is strong enough, you don't know what the other teams are going to do, they're going to take advantage of it, and also you've got to keep as cool as possible. So you're going back to the car, getting water, getting ice. There's a lot happening in a stage like today.
Well, it's the Ducal Palace, which of course Magnus is very familiar with. It's got a jacuzzi on the top floor. But yeah, Brian, you're absolutely right. And we're going to take a big turn in about 6 kilometres time. So if you have any comfort breaks to be dealt with, do it now. Let's hear from the man who leads this race.
Here with the leader, Primoz Roglic. Primoz, today it's all about the weather, right? The winds, the heat. How can you cool in this warmth?
Yeah, we will see. Not really much. The fact is it's super hot, and yeah, we take some ice now from the beginning. We have some extra drinks, but when the race is on, yeah, it's finished. It's hard to get anything, and for sure will be crucial today.
About crucial, what about crosswinds possible, especially in this region?
Yeah, we expect it. You have to expect it, even though now it doesn't look super windy. But yeah, out there when it's everything totally open, I think it's always wind. And yeah, we try to be there, to be alert.
Yes. How does it feel to be back in red again?
Perfect,
Suits you?
Yes, thank you. But feels hot, That's also true.
Good luck.
I love that. Feels hot. It doesn't matter what you spend on your jersey. If you've got to wear the leader's jersey, you get what you're given, no matter what it's made of. Look quite cool, but clearly he's carrying a bit of heat, and so indeed is the race. And just look at the gap here. Mob handed at the front, as you saw. Everyone very attentive, and as Brian was saying, it's one of those days where just about anything can happen, and it's likely to as well. Next big turn is coming in about 6 kilometres time, and that's really why they're busy with the hurry up. We're going to come into town through the Cruce de Cha, and then we are heading on a right-hander. We come into town. It's more focused than a 90-degree, and so it's your next wind change opportunity, if you will, or indeed something you're going to have to watch out for. In fact, you can see the elbow that they're going to have to take on right now. So there it is. I think we head out of town. We have another secondary turn, but they're clearly worried about it. A few little pinch points as well. When you get these changes of direction, Brian, all of a sudden the highway seems to roll out in front of you like an enormous carpet, but you'd better be attentive because the wind in these parts can change very, very quickly.
Definitely, and you have to stay near the front and choose your moments when you go back to the car and when you stop for your natural break. And you got to remember also this is the second stage, the first main kind of road stage, and everybody's that much fresher. Maybe if this was a stage in the third week of a Grand Tour, there would be kind of riders riding at the front, but everybody's full of energy. Everybody knows that they have to stay at the front with their GC leader, their sprinter, and that's what we're seeing. The gap hovering around 1 minute now. It's not as if they want to bring these three riders back. It's just a case of nervous energy in the peloton, everybody fresh, everybody keen, and everybody wanting to be near the front.
Well, they're doing a great job of it at the moment. We just hover around some of these spectacular religious edify. They're determined to make us talk about them. They've provided a tourist guide here, and it's absolutely enormous, a couple of 100 pages. And if I do go and try and tell you about this little piton, it looks like an ancient rocket project, doesn't it? Then it would take some time. Hasn't quite got off the ground, that one, Magnus, but this
no.
but the racing is for the time being. The peloton has changed its mood, as you can quite rightly see, and the road has opened for them. We do get these pinch points as well, Magnus. We've seen 4-lane highways, single-lane tracks as well, and you've got to know all the transitions, and the well-scoped teams, those that have been out here and learnt the road, are the ones that are going to take advantage. There are others, however, who just think the best plan is just to sit on the front, and DSM have been up there right from the very start today.
Yeah, they have it, and when you get these wide roads as well, you end up with one team on one side of the road and another team on the other, and they end up sort of kind of drag racing each other a little bit all the time, because you don't want to end up coming too far behind them on the other side of the road, because then all of a sudden, if there's a pinch point or if the wind sort of direction is changing somewhat, then you can find yourself swamped by half of the peloton. So that's what keeps on driving the pace up. And then you got all these riders in the middle of the group here as well, who are just sitting there ready, and you're always acutely aware of what's going on just behind you and to either side of you, and that's why we're seeing that the pace is higher than what it needs to be at this point in the race, but also the fact that this is the first sprint stage that we have, and like Brian was saying, everyone is fresh, but tomorrow we got a mountaintop finish straight away, so all the sprinters are going to want to get this one right and get a win under the belt before we head into the first proper climbing day. And there are not that many pure sprinter days here at the Vuelta this year. Even though on the road book it looks like there's plenty, quite a few of them, but having done the Vuelta quite a few times myself, those profiles don't always tend to tell the full story. And you end up getting caught on the wrong side of a climb that's not actually, well, it's not really visible on the map, but it can be a good 5 kilometers of uphill.
Let's see. This great aquifer that feeds all the farmland around here, doing a terrific job. Next big turn, by the way, is in about 5 kilometres time, and it's the reason why there's quite a bit of activity in the Peloton. I don't know whether we're going over the old bridge here. I'm not sure we are, to be honest, but if we are, then that is most definitely a pinch point. The gaps come down to, they'll be calling the vehicles out fairly soon. 1:10 as it stands just for the time being. Going to be hearing from Arnaud Demare in just a short while, but 47 kilometres per hour is what we're handling at the moment. It's reasonably quick, Brian.
It is. It's the average is just under 41 kilometres an hour for the whole stage, and you can see the peloton are fairly relaxed. But it's one of these days. We're not going to see a general classification battle by the looks of things, but there is a certain amount of nervousness in the peloton. Purely because, the kind of flattish nature. I think the GC contenders just want to be safe. They might have a think about tomorrow's stage, although it's still early in the grand scale of things. But at the end of the day, it's about being safe. And you know that there's going to be a kind of frantic nature of this finish with a lot kind of fresh legs, and everybody wanted to win this sprint stage. As Maggie said, that the sprinters haven't got a great deal of options, and this is possibly the flattest stage of the Vuelta, so they want to take advantage of it. But on the other side of things, you want to keep hydrated, because if you become dehydrated in a day like today, and these riders will lose between 3 and 4 kilograms of their body weight in fluid, and by working on the front, you need constant bottles. You need a bottle every kind of 15-20 minutes. So that's where you have to get these things right, get the hydration right in a day like today, because you will pay for it tomorrow.
And also, Brian, when you're in this kind of heat as well, you go back to the car to get fresh bottles for the riders, and you end up putting a couple of bottles in your bottle cage and a few on your back, and you ride up and you hand them out. By the time you come to take the first drink out of your bottle, and you're expecting a nice, cool bit of refreshing drink, by that point, the liquid inside the bottle is borderline at the boiling point already.
It's not pleasant. Some of the guys who go back as well for the bottles, they put a couple of nice juicy ones in their own cages, and then of course there's some in the pockets, and some go down the jersey. And I often wonder whether there's a pecking order. You sort of come up to the front loaded up, and if it's the team principal, he's definitely not going to have one that's been down your back. He's going to want one out the pocket with the less salty nozzle. No wonder they give it a quick toot before they have a drink. We've got a gap now hovering around about the 1:20. It's been like that for quite some time. Next big turn comes with about 64 kilometres to go, devil of a distance remaining. Thank goodness that number's changed, and we'll be coming into town. I think that's where we're going to make the turn. It's a right-hander, so into town, and then taking that sharp right-hander. And look how bunched up it is at the moment. Not a great deal of pace, but it does look nervous down there. Nobody's smiling and shooting the breeze. Everybody concerned about how this one's going to unfold. Let's speak to Arnaud Demare in just a few moments' time. Not quite sure how his demeanour will be. I imagine he's gone all PR on us, and this is going to be a great day. But it wasn't so great at the Tour de France, was it, Brian, for Francis de Joux?
No, it was very disappointing, especially for Arnaud Demare, and I think he'll want to do something today for sure.
Here he is. Oh, and everyone speaks about you and Team Groupama France today. How do you feel about this stage, and should it suit the sprinters? Well, I know I'm one of the favourites for the stage, and if you look at the start list, but I might not win all of the sprints, so be easy on me, he says. I need to make it happen, though, and I'm going to give it my best. I've got a good team, and today we need to be careful with the wind in the finish and along the stage throughout as well. And like I said, we need to make it happen. Is the wind more important? Do you need to take more account of that than perhaps the heat today? Well, it's not going to be a relaxed stage, that's for sure. Be very nervous, and we're just going to have to make sure that we're well positioned, but all the time as well. We need to be focused to concentrate. We need to be well positioned for the right checkpoints, have a strategy for all of that, and always be careful about it. So we'll be it'll be demanding both mentally and indeed physically. So the question comes in, how are you going to get organised in the finish? There's a long straight line, so it could be that you could end up starting the sprint too early. He said that's correct. We did a similar arrival in Burgos last year, not the exact same, but the same type of arrival, 4 kilometres from the finish. Slightly uphill stretch, and then in the very fast descent as well. And you need to be positioned extremely well already, and then it'll be super quick in a straight line. And like I said, you just need to keep your concentration. You shouldn't launch your sprint too early. How far do you need to launch the sprint, more or less? Like he's going to give his strategy away here. He said it depends. It's very fast. The later the better, he said, to launch the sprint, and it's also depend on how it goes and how many teammates you have. So basically, he didn't answer the question. When are you going to do it? I don't know. I'm not going to tell you. Why would he tell him? You can ask as much as you want, Magnus, but you don't always get the answers you're looking for.
No, definitely not. and it's a question that's also incredibly difficult to answer.
Of course,
it's somewhere between 250 and 150 meters to go, I'd say, is a good point. But I think we definitely have to keep an eye on Arnaud Demare. He's clearly here with a big team and with intent. So I'd be surprised if we don't see him in the mix. But the question is, has he got the legs? Has he not? We haven't really seen him an awful lot since the Tour. And is he? Who else is here that's got the legs? And I'm definitely very interested to see what Philipsen can do, because he's got his whole team here riding for him as well, and this is now coming up to that turn.
It is, and you can tell it's a drag race here, Brian. They're all up for it. They all know that they have to take this right-hander, and everyone wants to be in position. They're not potentially all going to fit. It's like a sprint before the 60k marker, for goodness sake.
Yeah, you can see some of the riders that have been riding in the front kind of drifting back now. It's big effort now. This is like coming up to, maybe the 3 kilometres ago in a sprint final. This is how hard these riders are riding at the moment. Everybody has the same information. Everybody knows this turn is coming up and they have to be at the front. Not everybody can fit, and it's the team leaders, team of Jumbo-Visma, come round that turn first. And you never know. It's the unpredictable nature of this stage today that you have to keep on switched on, and that's what we love about cycling. You don't know what's going to happen round the next corner. Is someone going to take it on? Are they going to kick it back a little bit? But everybody certainly has to be there, because it's one of these times that you think, I'll be okay sitting in 20th or 30th. Then it happens, and then it goes, and it's finished for you. So you have to be there every time.
Every time, indeed, and I think that's what's caused so many nerves here today. There was a few teams as well that started to show their nose towards the 4. You saw EF Education Nippo in the pink as well, working for Magnus Cort. Ultimately they will be, of course, looking after Hugh Carthy, making sure that Sir Hugh is in the right place. Lovely camber. I do love a lovely camber. Look at that. Just tipped beautifully as they make the next turn. There'll be a few little weaves before we get through here. The Church of Santa Maria. It looks absolutely spectacular. Yet another one. I must admit, I'm not always overly impressed by the exterior of churches. It's the inside that kind of blows you away, and it's difficult to see from a helicopter. You can send a drone in there, but it upsets the Vespers. Meanwhile, and we're coming up to evening vespers actually, with the light getting longer. The frequency very much changed, hasn't it? It kind of feels. I know it's very hot, and it still feels very much like summer. But the way the light comes to that golden hour where they do much of the filming in Hollywood, if it's light sensitive, some of the scenes, it's beautiful. You get this illuminated light. We're dwelling on that because we're not dwelling on the pictures at the moment. They're showing off the fact they've got a helicopter. Thank you. Back we get down to the action. The road's absolutely mobbed. AG Tour Le Mondial Citroën were up there earlier on. They've got Clement Venturini today. Sander Wolf and Damien Tozer are pretty good lead-out men as well. So don't be surprised if the men in with the brown shorts do something spectacular today. We shall wait and see. We also had UAE making some nice moves. Milano for them, but why not Matteo Trentin? Trentin or Milano, Magnus?
I would go for Milano for this type of sprint. I think he's shown recently that he's in good form, and he's been sprinting fast. So why not let him have a go?
Juan Sebastian Milano then for UAE Team Emirates. A couple of wins in Burgos. He should go okay. He's got a few to help out, including Rafa Maiker. I think will be involved in the approach. Ryan Gibbons will be there. Rui Oliveira as well, who went well yesterday, and Matteo Trentin. Unless Trentin decides to nick it himself, I think it'd need a ramp for him to do it, as he did at the Europeans in Glasgow a few years ago. Here we are. Dimitri Claes just wants to make sure that all the kicking boots are ready. 61 kilometres to go, 31 seconds now the breakaway. Brian, how much fear do you think they'll have of collecting this break?
I don't think it's in any of their thoughts at the moment. At the front of the peloton, all that's happening at the front is position, and they'll be getting that would have been a red key point, so it'll be shouted over the race radio and all the teams that you have to be near the front. And it's very difficult to kind of memorise the complete route today, and they have that information. So that's the sports director's job, to make sure that at red points or amber points you are close to the front, or a red point you have to be at the front. And we saw that push into that corner which sliced 30-40 seconds off the gap of the three in front. It was all about position, and like I just said earlier on, one of these times that you decide, I'm okay sitting here, when you're not, you turn the corner, a team takes it on. But for me, what it looks like is the wind maybe isn't blowing strong enough the right direction, but I don't think anybody really kind of wants to take it on. I think it's a fact that everybody wants to be at the front of the peloton, but nobody wants to take it on. It's still very early in the Vuelta. If a team does take it on, we heard from Primoz Roglic when the race starts, very difficult to get the bottles, to get the ice, to get all that. Do you really want to kind of burn your team out in day two, 35 degrees? And I think clearly with the bunch where it is at the moment, I don't think anybody wants to take it out this far up. There are potential crosswinds over the next kind of 10-15 kilometres, but it looks as if everybody just wants to be there and they don't want to kind of burn their team at the moment.
They are mobbing the road so much they can't get the security bikes and the stills camera bikes through either, I'm afraid, as we dwell on another half-pipe roof here in the Nuestra Senora de Asunción. So the sleeping something of the Assumption. I need to brush that up. Meanwhile, the security bikes are trying to get through to secure the road up ahead. They're the guys in the yellow vests. The green vests are the snappers. They're the ones who are going to produce a beautiful thing for your coffee tabletop for you to dwell on the race. But for the time being, there's no route through because the road is absolutely mobbed. The peloton almost as wide as it is long at the moment, Magnus.
Yeah, it definitely is, but it's all about, like Brian was saying, it's all about keeping position, making sure that you're as close to the front as you possibly can be, and if you can be close but not on the front, that's the ideal case scenario. But yeah, we have a couple of points coming up here now, and I actually think after we do the final turn and start heading towards Burgos, based on the weather forecast and the direction of wind, that's in that final sort of 15 to 20 kilometers. That's where we may potentially see some crosswinds, and I agree with Brian. You know, they don't necessarily want to take it up and want to cause a massive echelon from almost 60 kilometers out from the line today, because it would take an awful lot of energy, and especially the opening road stage of a Vuelta, where it is really hot and your body isn't quite used to it yet. So you will feel probably more fatigued after this stage today than you will do after a similar stage in 5 or 6 days time, when your body's kind of got used to it and you settle into the racing a little bit. So I think there's a lot of that sort of thought of, we got to be there or thereabouts, but we got to conserve energy and save as much as possible, make sure that we keep on getting drinks and stay hydrated, and so on.
It does have its own beauty, this kind of big sky country, I must say. I was just about to say we're heading for a seminary here, the Santa Maria le Real, as opposed to the Surreal, which is just a fish. So there it is. Evening vespers will be ringing out before you know it. 57.4 kilometres from home. The gap's down to 48 seconds. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Magnus. And the big turn, by the way, the sort of northernmost point of the race today will come with about 30 kilometres to go. And it's an enormous loop. The road almost permanently for about 5 kilometres bends around to the right. I'm looking forward to seeing it from the sky, because it should be reasonably spectacular. But it should be urgent as well. Looks like it's eased back just a little, but the ever-present team DSM on the left-hand side of your screen, so right-hand side of the road, UAE just starting to suggest that they are a presence today. Quinn Simmons, I'm wondering whether somebody might try a cheeky one, and if it is going to be somebody cheeky, it's likely to be the American from Trek Segafredo, looking after Giulio Ciccone, of course, up there. Not quite sure what the Bahrain victorious new livery. I can't decide whether I like it or not. We're looking at the standard lotto there, but if you look further through, you see Marc Pardon, number 46. It's almost as if they've taken a fruit smoothie and emptied it out on a design table and gone, it looks great. So there's papaya in there, a little bit of cherry, some blueberry as well, some black. They couldn't decide, so they just left it. Good for them. 58 seconds is the gap. Looks like they've eased up a bit, Brian.
Yeah, they have. Just talking about the Bahrain Victorious kit, I quite like it, actually. And I think it was nice of them to go away from the kind of red jersey, because the leader's jersey is red. We see this happening in other Grand Tours. They kind of change it a little bit more, change it in the Tour de France than anything else. But it just means that the red jersey sticks out a little bit for Primoz Roglic, because the Bahrain Victorious jersey was predominantly kind of red. But yeah, it has eased up a little bit. The gap came down to 33 seconds, now out to over a minute, and that's just a case of position and, you know, the effort putting on the front. But, you know, even DSM, they have been quite prominent towards the front, and it's nice to see the fact that Bardet has been shown in recent form in Burgos, and, you know, winning a stage there, showing well in the overall, shows that he's on good form. And, you know, he would love to ride under the kind of radar. For many, many years, the French put so much pressure on him to deliver big performances in the Tour de France. I think he'll be satisfied. He's changed teams, maybe a bit more relaxed. We might actually even see the best of Romain Bardet in this Vuelta this year, and that's why the team are confident in riding towards the front.
Agreed. I think a change is as good as the rest. Just ask Dan Martin. He changed teams almost like he was changing a hat. To be honest, it was almost constantly. I was always wondering who he was going to be riding for the following season. But he said, Brian, that Dan Martin himself said it kept him fresh. A new team, a new spirit.
Definitely, and I think moving away from you know, a traditional French team, French team is always, you know, a lot of pressure on, and to move away to another team, and like you say, a kind of fresh start. Not too sure how many times that Dan has been in. I think it's a little bit 4 or 5, but I think he's right. When you do move teams, obviously there's the enticement of a better paycheck at the end of the day, but it's just a kind of totally new environment. But saying that, we were talking about Demare being one of the favourites today. French sprinter, French team, and a lot of pressure on him to deliver, but equally, the pressure, because he could, if he wins today, he could go into the kind of record books. Not many people win a stage of in every Grand Tour, and Arnaud Demare has won in the Tour de France, he's won in the Giro d'Italia, and this is his big opportunity to tick that box. So a little bit more pressure on Groupama and Demare to deliver this performance today.
I think some of the team mergers may well have distracted me a bit, but Dan Martin, it was Garmin Sharp, then it was Team Cannondale, which Garmin sub-sponsored, then Essex Quickstep, and then UAE Team Emirates. So yeah, it was quite a rack within those 5-year windows. Don't forget, you can take part in the vote if you head off to the GCN app. Who's your favourite for stage 2 of the Vuelta? Jakobsen, Demare, Philipsen, Molano, or indeed an other today? I think I'll probably go with Arnaud Demare, to be fair, but he was so disappointing in the Tour. I've kind of do that very, very carefully. I want to go for Aberasturi. Now, I'm talking side bets here, so don't do a cheeky one, Magnus, on me. I'm going to go for Aberasturi as a cheeky side bet for Caja Rural. Who could make the podium and surprise a few?
Well, I think that is not a bad side bet, to be perfectly honest with you. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, I backed him. You can have whatever.
But I also think we need to keep an eye on Jordi Meus from Bora.
Yep.
He's a very, very fast man as well. I mean, there's so many sprinters that are sort of there or thereabouts, not the big names, but who are quick. But yeah, I do think it's always when we come into the first sprint of the Grand Tour, the big names are there. They're gonna want to have a go. Everyone is still in one piece and healthy and in good shape with all the energy, and with that, I think it's so important as well for the team. If you can get a win on the opening road stage of a Grand Tour, then it sets up the sort of the feeling within the team for the remaining 3 weeks of racing. Really, you know that you got that win, so that's a success. Regardless of how the Vuelta goes from that moment on, you still got that win under your belt. And it just relaxes everyone a little bit.
I agree. Brian, who's your cheeky side bet today?
Well, I was just listening with interest. The interesting thing for me is I'm also going to go with Bora Hansgrohe. I know that Maggie just talked about Jordi Meus, but Martin Lass, he took a victory just last week in the Arctic Tour of Norway, and I think he has a really good chance to beat Kristoff and the likes in that race. Maybe not the best sprinters field, but it's all about confidence. You can rent a race with a win, it gives you that confidence, and I think Martin Lass could be there and thereabouts, the Estonian sprinter.
If not, he'll be leading out Jordi Meus. Let's wait and see. A couple of flick-flacks as well for Israel Startup Nation between Davide Kimamai and indeed Itzmar Einhorn. I think Einhorn might get the choice today, but they've got a good lead out. Just pondering those who may well shine brightly that wouldn't necessarily be upon your radar. We talked about Alberto Dainese for Team DSM. Milano, I think, will probably be amongst the favourites and doesn't really count, but I think Matteo Trentin as a potential today, if it does get a bit sketchy. He's one of those guys who can sail through and enjoy life. I was wondering, actually, even if Aaron Burrow might try a cheeky one and go long today, but I think with there he is in the green jersey, by the way. He's nursing the points jersey on behalf of Primoz Roglic after finishing second yesterday. Heartbreak for Aaron Burrow. What a great time trial it was, and only one man had the beating of him yesterday, Brian.
That was an incredible time trial. I think you tipped him, after watching the footage last night after the Tour of Denmark, and you know, it was a good choice actually, Carlton, in choosing Aramburu, and you know, he put up a tremendous fight, but unfortunately he was beaten by the best, and there's nothing else you can do really. Now he's at 6 seconds. There is a bonus sprint at 16.5 to go, 3, 2 and 1, but then he would have to score. He would have to finish at least third in the stage. It's not past them to do that, but to make a big effort to take the kind of 3 seconds and then take the, you know, another 4 seconds by finishing third or better, you know, to take that jersey. He's close, but not close enough, and I think there's other sprinters that will foil him, other faster sprinters. He likes it a little bit more lumpy, but yeah, he would have been gutted. But what can you do when you're up against Primoz Roglic in a time trial?
Exactly, and he was in heartbreaking mode yesterday, Magnus, wasn't he? He attacked every single part of the course and did it brilliantly.
Well, just a really well measured time trial that we've got accustomed to seeing that from Roglic in pretty much every aspect of his racing. Is always very well measured, very well planned, and yesterday was no different. You know, he did the climb hard, built up a bit of an advantage already at the top there, and then did the descent, you know, in a controlled manner, and then open up whatever he had left on the flat, and that was enough to walk away with the win in that. So, you know, you can't, like Brian is saying, you can't sort of be too upset when you get beaten in a time trial. It's not by luck or missing that wheel, or, you know, getting yourself boxed in slightly just with a kilometre to go. Time trialling is time trialling. It's the fastest man from point A to point B on his own against the clock, and Roglic was just better yesterday.
He was. He leads this race, a race he, of course, has won twice in a row. We're going to hear from Fabio Jakobsen in a few moments' time. This will be interesting. He fell at the Heitzepile, and that's after 2 stages on Wallonia, which would have done a great deal to settle his nerves in the compact cauldron that is there is a sprinting environment, and that's good. If it was a nerve settler for Fabio Jakobsen, I don't know how upset he will be. What do you reckon, Brian, after the fall in the Heitzepile?
Well, I think he'll be definitely there and thereabouts.
Hope so. We're going to hear from him right now. Here he comes, Fabio Jakobsen, Dakota Quickstep.
So a year ago he was badly injured, now he's back again, Fabio Jakobsen. Fabio, how is it to be at the start of the first stage again with a big chance also for a good result?
Yeah, I'm really happy. It's been a long time since I did a bunch sprint in the Grand Tour. Last one was in Madrid 2 years ago.
And you won it.
Yeah. So yeah, that gives me motivation, and my shape is okay. I did a decent time trial yesterday, so I look forward to today. And yeah, we're gonna try and win the stage.
Do you fear the wind today?
Well, I don't think I fear it as much as the others, but I do. I will be focused the whole stage, because you never know here in Burgos. It can be hectic, and it could mean echelons. And we have the team for it, so yeah, we look forward to racing, and hopefully it's a sprint in the end.
Would there be a possibility as well to go and ride echelons, because that's your speciality with your team?
Yeah, for sure. First we like to control for a bunch sprint, but if the situation is there that we can race and make echelons, or there's other teams that are willing to race, then we're gonna be there for sure. And like you said, we are the team, we're able to do it. We have a couple of strong guys, so yeah, we'll be in the mix.
Will you be able to enjoy racing as well?
Yeah, of course. It's what I like to do the most. Ride my bike and race and sprint. So today is a day for me. Enjoy it. Thank you.
He's in confidence, and I think that Brian has come from his victories in Wallonia. It's nice to see that he's back with his mojo as far as sprinting is concerned. It's been a long road, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely settled him, and you can remember when we commentated on the Tour of Turkey.
Indeed.
And you know, that was his first race back, and he was there trying to help Mark Cavendish, and every day he get better and better, and his goal at that time was just to finish the race. So he ticked off that goal, and I thought at that moment, and I can remember the race very well now, and I was thinking when I saw him and where he was finishing and, you know, getting dropped and slowly getting better, I thought, I doubt we're going to see much of Jakobsen this year. I think it'll be into next year, but I've just been kind of blown away with his coverage, and you know, I was always kind of shed a tear, to be honest with you, when I saw him win that stage after what he'd been through, and when he won that stage in Wallonia, and then he went on to win again. It was, you know, it's just a tremendous job in getting back, and you can genuinely see it in his interview there. He's just enjoying himself, and that's part and parcel of bike racing. If you enjoy doing every aspect of our sport, then you'll continue doing it well. It's on the flip side, we see people I'm just doing a job, I'm not really enjoying myself, and they go through some difficulties. You know, recently Fabio Aru said that he lost his smile, and you know, that's on the flip side of what we're talking about with Jakobsen. Jakobsen has found his smile again, and you know, it's just great to see, and I hope he does well in this year's Vuelta, and I hope he does get his win in this year's Vuelta as well.
Me too. I think well, let's see. It would be a great cathartic moment added to his wins in Bologna if he actually gets a victory here. You've heard he's run well in the Vuelta in the past. It would just be almost coming full circle, and after the brutal injury he sustained in Poland, then it's great that he's finally managed to complete the circle. Let's hope for his sake it's today. There's some other sprinters out here who will be out to stop him. Aberasturi, I've mentioned, from Caleruega, Jasper Philipsen from Alpecin-Fenix, Arnaud Demare most definitely. Michael Matthews, I think, will be in the frame as well today, Magnus.
Yeah, I definitely think so, although he's not as quick in these flatter sprints as what he used to be a number of years ago. I think he prefers a slightly harder finish, slightly hillier finish. But you know, he's close to the front here. He's come here to, you know, to win stages. So for sure, he's going to have a good go at this today. And yeah, whether he can pull it off or not, I think we'll have to wait and see. But you know, I'd put him sort of as probably more as an outsider for today than a real favourite for the win.
Well, I can only agree with you. Magnus Kort will be one of those as well, I think, who could probably fit into the same that same region. There'll be a few others for you to ponder. The chance to actually post a surprise today, I think, is quite limited, because we open up with an arrow straight road for about 1,400 metres, so there's not really that much chance to get yourself out of view, and certainly not out of mind. We're going to take a brief break, and we'll be saying a fond farewell to Magnus, so you'll be able to enjoy his company. At the end of the day, he'll be on the GCN sofa with Orla a little bit later on today. I think we may have Brian there as well. Brian staying with us. Sean will be jumping back in, so those of you who are just heading off on a commercial break, you'll have Sean Kelly back in, and you'll be able to see more of Magnus a little bit later. First time I've seen Trek Segafredo up towards the front. I did mention Quinn Simmons, but clearly with an option. Not the wind we were hoping for today, Brian, but they've been very adept at marshalling the potential.
Yeah, it's maybe disappointing for us, but maybe not for the teams. There is still that kind of nervousness in the peloton, but from time to time you see them relaxed. Once they're through that kind of red key point, they seem to kind of relax a little bit and try and you know, kind of save the energy for the days that are coming up. But it's just one of these stages where you never know what's going to happen. Is a team going to take it up? What way is the wind blowing? Is it moved in the last kind of half hour? Because a lot of the cars in front will be relaying that information possibly 45 minutes to an hour in front of the race. So they clearly are giving the information out to the riders in the peloton, because you know, we can see them fighting for position, and you know, there's no quarter given at the front of the peloton. Everybody wants their space, and it's every right that Trek Segafredo are riding for Ciccone. And I think looking back to the Tour de France, we can remember they went with Nibali, and there's questions asked, and Ciccone was looking that much better, and maybe they should have gone with Ciccone, but at the end of the day, they're giving Ciccone the opportunity here. They're putting everything behind him. We've mentioned a few names and bounced a few names about whether they'll be allowed to sprint, because let's be honest here, everybody's got their team job to do, and especially in EF Education Nippo, it might be a case of Hugh Carthy might have 2 riders round about him and to look after him in this type of final, because it's not too I would say a difficult final, with the last corner being a kilometre and a half out, but it's all the roundabouts and the kind of pinch points and all this sort of stuff, that one of the best guys that kind of looking after him would be Marcus Kort-Nielsen, so he might not get an opportunity to sprint today. He might have a job to look after Hugh Carthy. And we've talked about the weather as well. We've talked about who's normally in a day like today, you'll give 2, possibly 3 riders each in turn going back to the car to get bottles, and you look at the peloton, the shape it is now. We've talked about it, no road space, so if you drop back to the car, get bottles, and your teammates are at the front, how long is it till you get back to them to give them the bottle? As Maggie says,
you're going to need a drink.
Yeah, by that time it's all warm and you need another drink.
Oh dear. Yeah, I'm sure there are complaints as well. I've seen riders, particularly Nasser Bouane, I seem to remember, handed a bottle that was clearly too warm and he just threw it back in the car. Hey, give me a cold one. Yeah, nerves starting to fray just a little bit. Here's your average pace today. They've not been hanging around. 40.7 kilometres per hour, the average pace. That's not just the last hour, that's throughout the day. And in 35 Celsius and a little bit more, that's going to have an impact, which is why we've had an awful lot of feeds today. Plenty of bottles been taken on. While some of you away, Brian was just speculating about the tough job, especially for one of the teams who is up towards the 4, and Movistar now just embedded centre of the road, as you've seen. Here's the task at hand right now. This is Simon Carr. He's been sent back, the Brit, in the pink there on the left-hand side of the road. He's got a knapsack full of, maybe it's a cooler bag, which would be wise. And nobody wants a salty bidon, so they've decided to stack him up with a bag, easily handled. Away he goes. There used to be that jersey, didn't there, with multiple pockets in, that was very difficult to put on. And I think Astana had it for a while. Didn't quite work. But anyway, he's going to get himself all the way back to the front. But his teammates are a long way away. And by the time he gets there, those bottles could be warm. It might feel like... he's handing them rather thin tea, which you do get in this part of the world, bizarrely. But anyway, he's making his way back up on the left. Meanwhile, it's just mobbed at the front. It's almost the most relaxed place to be honest. You've encamped out front. This is my spot. Nobody's coming through. And they're letting the gap go up because there was a danger. It may well be caught. There's also a danger, Brian, that... we have this intermediate sprint, and it's a strange position for it. Carries bonus seconds as well, 3, 2 and 1. 20 bonus seconds as well for those first across the line, 20 all the way down to 1. There's 50 down to 1 a little bit later on for the top 15 at the finish. But this intermediate sprint, it comes with 16.7 kilometres to go. Now, if points are mean prizes in the green jersey competition, there'll only be there'll be no bonus seconds left, with 3, 2 and 1 having been hoovered up in the bonification, so the bonus is therein. But it's a strange one, with so many points being offered up so close to the finish, 16.7, with very few challenges after that. We will have dealt with the hills, most of them anyway, a few little lumps on the approach, which we'll talk to the nearer we get. But the fact that we have 16.7 kilometres to go, it's very tight to the line. Who's going to go for it? Who's going to go for those points?
Do you know, I think, Carlton, that when the race organisers looked at this, they thought, well, they're going to have a short, interesting time trial to start the race. Everything's going to be very tight, so potentially, put that bonus sprint in, and 3, 2 and 1. It could change, the red jersey, but Aramburu needs 6 seconds, and that's too much. So I think the race organisers were really thinking it would be, really close in the general classification. Maybe never anticipated the kind of dominant performance of Primoz Roglic, and I'm not too sure anybody will be really super interested in investing in getting those 3, 2 and 1 so close to the finishing line.
Well, I don't know when they're going to finish this. Oh, there it is. It is indeed finished. I thought it was a ruin, but it actually looks rather sweet. I take it back. Yeah, let's see. We've got a big turn coming up with 30 kilometres to go. It's where we start that big loop, Brian. It hooks around. It's the northernmost part of our course today. The shadows clearly lengthening as we get to the late afternoon. It's, 4:45 local time here. Yeah, just in time for the news. Maybe a bit early. So much bad news at the moment. Some people on Twitter just saying how nice it is to have a cycling race to sort of pull ourselves back and re-anchor ourselves with the world a troubled place at the moment, be it fires, pestilence, or indeed conflict. It's nice to have a race to almost dwell on, really, and give yourself some respite. So you're very welcome in that regard. It's nice to have your company. 41.2 kilometres from home then. This intermediate sprint comes with 16.7 kilometres to go. We'll see how busy they get for it, as Brian was pointing out. Might be. And we've got 29.5 kilometres, so in about 15 k's time we are going to be taking this big old loop. We welcome back Sean Kelly into the commentary position. Sean, it's been a long old day.
Yes, it has. It's one of those days where the conditions, not enough wind to make it interesting racing, because that's what it's been here. The team out in front right from the beginning of the day, and they've been just left hang out here. And we've seen occasions where the bunch have pushed on a bit when they're coming to a point where it's change of direction and the risk of maybe a bit of side wind, but then immediately knocked off again by the teams, and that's been the case many times. And they're just leaving this race. The kilometres tick by, and that's what the riders are trying to do here. Keep in control, keep where you've got to be in the main peloton, and just get the day over with. And that's what a lot of the riders will be hoping here, especially the GC men, of course. For the men who are going for the stage honours here, the work has to be done. But this final 40 kilometres, this is what we're going to see, unless we have a section where the wind does blow up. But it doesn't look like that today. That is going to be one of those days where it's all about the sprint, and they're just going to keep on rolling at this pace, and then get it into the final 15-20 kilometres, where we will see the sprint teams preparing for their sprinters.
Gosh, that still water there. You can hear the applause from people just slapping their necks with the mosquitoes in this part. Something I suffer with. A few of them have expired on the camera here, I note. Meanwhile, back to 2013. I remember it well, actually. Edvald Bosenhagen was riding for Sky at the time, and we thought maybe, yeah, they held back, didn't they? But Volker Mollema it was for Belkin Pro, who went for it. The question was, would he be caught? And in fact, it certainly looked like he might well be. The line came just in time for him. He raised his hands, and Eddie Boss just missed out. Max Verschesi was in the frame there for Lampre. Remember them? Much missed team. Tyler Farrar, or Farah, which was ultimately the correct pronunciation of his name, bless him, for Garmin Sharp was in there. And Fabian Cancellara rounded out your top five. I did like the Belkin livery, I must admit. It was a very late deal, I believe, as well, for that team. They were Blanco before that, weren't they? Or was that after that? Can't remember. Meanwhile, we dwell on the tombs here of those who are resting today. There may well be a few that feel that way within the pack. If you have managed to keep yourself out of the wind, Sean, it's a wise thing to do, because it's going to get very busy, whether you're involved in the sprint or on duty for your GC man to keep them safe. There's work to be done here.
Yes, well, there is a lot of work to be done, and when you see the average, over 40 kilometres per hour for the stage, with the conditions being so warm, it's quite an energy-sapping day for everybody out here on the road. And we can see that some of the teams who are doing a lot of work with their GC men, and we can see DSM for Bardet. They have been to the front every time we pan to the front end of the peloton. They are there on the front, and it's a difficult job there to keep Bardet up there. And when you're out in front like that, when you can see the riders, when we take the front shots of the peloton, peloton. It's not the best place to be, but it's definitely the safest place to be, because you're out of the danger, but it takes a lot of energy out of your team and also for yourself. If you can keep back a little bit in that 20th position and go hide as such and get carried along for a big part of the day, that is very important. That for the rest of the race, every little bit of energy you burn on the earlier days, that can take from later on the race. But some riders can just sit in a good position, not be seen when we see the front of the peloton, but they are still there in that top 20-30 positions. But other riders cannot do that because they're not able to hold the position. They get crowded out, and that's the reason we see sometimes a team with 4 or 5 leaders in front of their team leader just keep him in that position on the very front of the main peloton.
Well, that's your answer, Brian. For those who were looking for some sustenance, they've got a well-placed Swanee who's handed out on this hill, one of the biggest we've got today. Griffin vultures hang around in this part of the world. Always think they're a sort of quite an ominous sight, to be honest, when you see the peloton down on the road. You just hope that everyone stays upon their bikes today. It might get we had a few bumps and bruises, nothing too serious today. And these magnificent beasts, I don't know what they find to eat out here, to be honest. Plenty of corn, as Sean was telling us a little bit earlier on. Gaps down to a minute, Sean.
Yes, well, we've seen that a number of times here. The advantage for the breakaway has been such a slim advantage all day, and it went out to that 340 I think it was around the maximum, and then it was being controlled by the sprinters teams. And the moment we see a little bit of a flurry on the front of the peloton, it can come down by 30-40 seconds in the matter of a couple of kilometres, and then they knock it off in the main peloton again, and they manage to pull out. And they just want to leave them hang out there, the 3 leaders. That brings a little bit more calm to the main peloton, because if you pull back the 3 breakaway riders in the front, well then you could have attacks coming from the those teams who have no chance in the final at this one. They haven't got a sprinter, so to keep it calm as much as possible, that's what they do here. The teams that are controlling the front of the peloton just leave the breakaway hanging out there in front for as long as possible into the stage.
Well, you saw from the static wind turbine, the wind turbine's either broken or there's no wind. And I feel it's probably the latter, Brian. So I don't know whether it's a blessing or a curse, because it's been so nervy today, even in the absence of wind.
Yeah, I think at the start we did have wind. We could hear the interview from Primoz Roglic, and he knew that was a possibility, and with it being a possibility, you can't take any chances. We already covered that earlier in the stage, that if you make a plan in the morning, then you have to give the riders a plan, and weather constantly changes as you go out throughout the day, and it doesn't look as if the wind is going to play any effect, but still that kind of nervous nature, the heat is going to take its toll. We saw earlier on Simon Carr go back to the car, take a musette, and it's always difficult to move up on the inside, and you risk punctures hitting a stone, but he took 1 musette up. You saw there how crucial it was that Jumbo-Visma had a staff member on the side of the road. They took 3 musettes and stayed near the front. That's a difference sometimes, that not just the strategy of how they race on the road, but where the team members are at the side of the roads, and when to give them up, and to take advantage of that just saves energy.
Well, you string all those things together and it works for you rather well. Coming into town here, this is Vela Gutierrez, I believe. Looks like they've gone a bit mad with the bunting here. Our congratulations to Mrs. Gonzalez, who strung that all together. She did a great job. We have a big turn, however, coming up. It's an enormous one. The road will just start in a short while anyway. I'm not quite sure exactly when. I think it's probably about 3 or 4 kilometres time, but it gradually, slowly but surely, turns around to the right. If we get an aerial shot, you'll certainly see it, and that will make us head towards due east almost. And so if the wind does return, I can't see it happening, to be honest. Even the bunting is barely a flap at the moment. So when is a safe time, Brian, for us to retake this breakaway, to capture them?
I think they know they're going to capture them anyway. I think anywhere inside the last 10 kilometres, just to make sure. Like Sean said, just kind of having it out there brings some sort of kind of calmness to the front of the peloton. I just think from what I've seen over the last 20-30 kilometres that it's a case of being there but not willing to take the reins up. They don't want to, try and split the peloton or use any type of wind. It's just everybody just wants to stay safe. They know that the sprinters teams, if anything was to happen, the sprinters teams would come up and try and take control. This is a sprint stage in the Vuelta, and they're going to take advantage of it. And the GC teams know that, and it's all about getting through today and conserving energy for the days that are coming up.
Well, we're going to go to a commercial break in a short while. We'll be shortly bidding a fond farewell to Brian. He'll be on the sofa a little bit later on. Who's joining you today, Brian, on the post-race show?
Orla's our host, as always, the hostess with the mostess, and I will be on the couch with Maggie.
Well, I'm hoping for your sake anyway that you win the bragging rights with Fabio Jakobsen today. I'd love to see him win, but it looks like Arnaud Demare and Groupama Francis Lejeune are out to stop him. Sean, not a cloud in the sky. It's one of those beautiful days you'd reach for the bike, and in the late afternoon, just the heat of the day ebbs. It's a nice place to be.
Yes, well, it's a nice place to be to ride your bike at a very casual pace. But when you're out here in this stage today, it's not the most nice place to be. But you have to get on with it if you're one of the riders here. You just get through the day. Some riders, it's really about getting through the day and waiting for the days to come. Others, the stage up for honours here, and they're the sprinters and they're the lead out men. For those guys, it's going to be a very, very interesting final, and a difficult final for them, because as we spoke about earlier in the stage, which feels a long time ago, the opportunities here in this race, there's not that many of them, and every day there's an opportunity for the sprinters and their teams to go for the honours. Well, then you have to give it that 100%, and that is the position for the sprinters here today. And yeah, it's turning out to be an easier day than it could have been, because if we had real windy conditions, this could be all over the place. We could have groups everywhere on the road here, and not a nice way to start a 3-week tour on the first road stage. So when you consider all here, it's an energy sapping day, but it's a day that it could have been a lot worse.
A lot of riders salting up here as well. Essential, Sean, as well, not to just take water, but to keep your electrolyte balance where it needs to be as well. The feeds and the gels that they have to get through so many of them. It can actually be a bit of a trauma on the body as well, and we see a lot of riders just trying to go for something a little bit more traditional on occasion, but they are beautifully designed, these things, as well, if you can sustain them and you don't mind having them on a regular basis. And today, as Brian was saying, many kilos will be shed by each of the riders out here, and it's energy that needs to be replaced somehow, or at least mitigated against during the day.
Yes, well, that is true. You lose quite a number of kilos during the stage, but then you drink so much immediately after the stage. Of course, you have to drink all day as well, but after the stage you drink quite a lot, and right through the evening. So you put it back on again, in the next number of hours after the stage finish. But you have to be careful that you keep on, taking your liquids and also taking your energy bars, your gels, because in the warm conditions it's difficult, to get the more solids, which is the energy bars, into you. And as just mentioned, Carlton, sometimes they go for something more natural as well, but in the warm conditions that's always a bit more difficult to get it down. But you have to keep certainly taking, in the earlier parts of the stage, the energy bars and then the gels as you get further into the stage. And it's not only for today, it's for the rest of the race as well in the days to come.
I'm just reminding myself how things stack up at the moment. Not too much damage done yesterday, I don't think, Sean. We had our We had a winner, of course, in Roglic at the time trial. Some of his rivals, I felt sorry for Landa yesterday. He had a strip torn off him, essentially, I think. Ground to make up. Anything you give away from Roglic has to be found deeper in this race. There's not going to be that many differences today. It's not going to be for the GC men, of course. The bonuses, when they come, will be going elsewhere.
Well, it was always a situation between the GC contenders, which ones would lose a bit of time and which ones would limit their losses, and that was the case for Landa. He lost a bit, but I think you could be expecting that with Landa. The time trial is where he suffered. Also the technical parts, he had a big accident we remember in the Giro in the earlier part. So I think he wasn't going to take the risk where some of the riders like Roglic we see taking huge risk in the final number of kilometres and on that downhill as well. And he lost quite a bit of time, but again, nothing disaster wise, but sometimes the seconds that you lose, the extra ones that you lose yesterday, it could be the difference between being in the top 5 and maybe being on the podium at the end of this race in 3 weeks time. So as they say, every second counts so much in a big stage race, even of a 3-weeker.
I was actually speculating. Andrea Baggioli was brilliant yesterday. Loved his time trial, and I was wondering whether, if this was going to get a bit messy towards the end, whether Baggioli might have a relative free hand. He's not part of the lead-out train for Fabio Jakobsen. That's going to be Stibar, Seneschal and Van Lerberger. But Baggioli's superb effort yesterday. There was a few surprises. I think you have to say that Aramburu himself was probably a bit of a shock yesterday as well. Nearly took the leader's jersey. Of course, that's upon the shoulders of Primoz Roglic, who looked very happy in it today. He responds very well to congratulations as well, Roglic. He's a proper gent. Very, very genuinely a very nice guy, and you can't say that for everyone in the peloton. I'd love to see Freire going well yesterday, likewise. The options for Aston are probably a little bit limited today. Aramburu might have a dig. Let us wait and see. There's no sort of lumps and bumps for Freire to play his usual game, so they'll be looking after Vlasov and possibly Jon Izagirre. You never quite know with Jon Izagirre whether it's going to be a good tour or a bad tour. Let's wait and see. We'll have to get to the high ground before then. Take your blessings where you can get them, and those, a blessing or a curse to be in the breakaway. Not quite sure. This is Diego Rubio, 5th in the Boucle Mayenne not that long ago for Burgos. You were always going to see Spanish teams up the road. He's here along with Sergio Martin of Caja Rural, who'll be working for Aberasturi a little bit later on. I guess if there was to be any chasing duties, it certainly would have been expected of Caja Rural, but they put a man in the break, knowing that Aberasturi doesn't have a lead-out trainer, he'll be doing it on his own. And this is Asparen Sabi, just coming back into the pack, and it's last man standing for a combativity award, and it's Burgos that are going to do it, and you'd expect that, Sean, especially as the sponsor's name, of course, matches our destination today.
Yes, well, I think the break, they know pretty much from the earlier part of the stage that it wasn't going to be a day where they were going to be allowed that big advantage, and they could go into the final 30-40 kilometres with some hope of maybe getting to the end of the day and going for the stage honours. That was never the case, and I think they just want to get it over with here with just under 30 kilometres to go. The combativity award, they started attacking each other and see who was the strongest man at this point, and get that out of the way, and then get back into the peloton and get a little bit of an easier ride to the finish, because it's been a real energy sapping one for the three men out all day from the kilometre zero.
166 kilometres didn't sound like terribly much. 166.7 for the pedants amongst you. A very big day tomorrow, however, Sean, including a big climb at the end of it. And if it's equally as hot, and we're hearing it's going to be, 202 kilometres seems a bit rude.
Yes, well, so tomorrow could be a day where we could see, again, the GC men, we could see some of them losing time on that final climb. so early in the race, yeah, with the conditions that you mentioned, the real warm conditions, if you're a rider who haven't been in these conditions for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and it can have an effect to get into to acclimatise to this. It might take a bit more time, so tomorrow will be an important day, and if you're a rider who needs a number of days just to get into the rhythm again, if you haven't been doing a lot of training, trying to rest a bit, coming to this Vuelta, well then it could be a difficult one. They would prefer a number of stages like we've had today, just the flat stages, 3 or 4 days of that, and then you're into the rhythm a bit more. But tomorrow could be a one where we might see some of the GC men losing time at this very early stage.
I think I might have a treat for you, Sean, and that's a bit of a climb. I know you've been desperate for this, and when I look at the road book, especially on the Vuelta, I kind of think to myself, is it really going to be a climb? Off the top of it, by the way, we have this intermediate sprint, and now that the breakaway has been diminished, we still have 11 kilometres to go before we get to that intermediate. It might well be, Sean, that we have a bit of a skirmish for it, a pre-sprint before the sprint.
Yes, well, when there's the time bonuses up for grabs now, well, it could change the way the peloton go for this sprint, because you just have to be careful. And we often see those riders just hanging around the front there, and they wait till the last moment and they suddenly make that effort in the final couple of 100 metres and try and grab a few time bonuses. So I think it will be probably a little bit more nervous now that some of the breakaway men have been pulled back here, but again, I don't think there will be one of these big sprints for maybe 2 or 3 kilometres before we get to that point. It will just be in the final couple of 100 metres, depending on the situation when we get to that point.
Do you know who I think will go for it? Arnaud Demare. He's wearing the green jersey on behalf of Primoz Roglic, and after his efforts yesterday, I'm not suggesting that we should have any gifts, but I would be really pleased, Sean, if he actually picked up a good hatful of points in that competition, because his efforts yesterday, I kind of feel like I felt sorry for him.
Yes, well, you couldn't but be sorry for him, because when you're in that hot seat all day, and as you mentioned, it wasn't a very comfortable one yesterday. It is so disappointing, and there was riders coming in there. I think he was expecting maybe to topple him off that hot seat, and he held on, and then it came down to the very last man to start, and he was always going to be a big danger. And unfortunately for Arnaud Demare, Roglic was so good yesterday, and not being able to take it. But now he's in a position in the GC standings, like he's at 6 seconds. So as we come to the intermediate sprint, the time bonus will be important, because if he can get some time in this intermediate sprint, then in the finish as well, he's quite a good sprinter, so he will try and get up there in the finish also. So you never know what he could do.
Well, I hope he has a go. I would love to see it. Primoz Roglic can be in brutal mode. Do you remember the Giro d'Italia when Brandon McNulty had also sat there, hadn't he, in the hot seat for ages and ages? And I think it was Peter Sagan that broke the heart of Brandon McNulty that day. Yes, I believe so. I need to double check. But yeah, it was one of the time trials where it was heartbreaking to see somebody sitting there for such a long time and then just have it snatched away from them at the very end. I'll double check my notes in a moment. But nonetheless, yesterday. It was a bit of a heartbreak, especially for me, because I had picked Arnaud Demare for the day. Here's the boys trying to get through, and they're not making a nuisance of themselves. They're good for everybody, Sean, because these are the guys that make sure the roads there's nobody breaking into the course who's out to do a little bit of afternoon shopping. These are our security men that keep everyone safe, and the unheralded heroes of all of the racing.
Yes, well, they need to get forward, and we can see the moment they get an open here, they start rushing through, and you can see they're trying to get everybody through. But the riders, they know the motorbike is there behind you, so they use that as well as a way of getting to the front. If you need to move up, if you're a bit further back than you like to be in the main peloton, when the motorbikes are going by, you can see now that the Trek guys there just making the effort, one from low to all. So the very minute the motorbike go through, they try and just make that effort when the opening appears and move up 10 or 15 places and get close to the front. So that's why we see the motorbikes. It takes them a long time to get through because the riders are all trying to keep their position. Nobody wants to give that open because they're afraid other riders will come from behind and overtake them.
Here we are then. It's an announcement of 25 Ks to go until we get to the line, and that means that in what, 9 kilometres time we're going to have an intermediate sprint. This man may well roll through it. He's solo at the moment, but I think things are going to warm up behind him and the gap may well be extinguished by the time we get there. So yeah, doing an awful lot of work today have been Groupama Francis de Jeunes. It looks like they've actually just eased off that duty for the time being. There's Jenny, it's the Luxembourg champion as well, just noticed on the left-hand side of the screen. A few others as well just want to get themselves into a decent position, and this looks like it's going to be lively, this intermediate sprint, because if there's no change in the road, as Sean was pointing out, it's very difficult to actually make an advance, really, with the situation as it is. Bora just adjusting themselves. Jody Meus for them today. They've got Martin Laas, who Brian has pointed out could well be the choice today. I'm not quite sure which way that's likely to go, but Bora have kept themselves quiet. That is not something negative at all. It could well be that they impose themselves late on. Fabio Jakobsen gets your vote at the moment on the GCN app. If you'd like to join the fun and join in with that, then please feel free to do so. There'll be a poll every single day. Arnaud Demare, 25% of you think Jasper Philipsen has risen into second place by the looks of that at 28. I'm not sure he's got the out-and-out pace, Jasper Philipsen. He constantly podiums. I guess in this company he's got to have a great deal of belief, the man from Alpecin-Fenix. He's certainly got a great lead-out train. Scott Thwaites will be helping out on duty. Likewise will Sasha Modolo. I think Al Krieger will be the man last for him of Germany, who could... Krieger, I beg your pardon, could even have his own go, but I don't think it's going to be allowed. I think Jasper Philipsen is the auto choice naturally enough. You can see the pace that we've got today. Carl Reinen just slamming into one of the bottles here, still trailing that amazing mane of his. I'm jealous. Looking back here is Ineos Grenadiers, all about keeping their principals safe. At least we know one thing, and that's that after his time trial yesterday, Thomas Pidcock just freewheeling to the line. Wasn't fully invested, I don't think. He's still got the afterglow of a gold medal from the Olympics in the mountain biking competition. No disrespect to Tom at all, but he'll be a great support rider deeper into this race, you can be absolutely certain of. I'm not quite sure why the number is displayed upside down here, 67. I guess there's only one way to do it. But there you go. Less of a flag if you, marginal gains and all that. But yeah, Rubio. It'll be for Carlos Canal for Burgos today. May well be on his own, especially as they have, of course, had Rubio up in the break. And here indeed is Diego Rubio, he of the number 67. Still with his nose in the wind, but 28 seconds. It's going to be a fought for intermediate sprint, Sean. Who's your money on?
Well, it's going to be a difficult one here for Rubio, as we can see, 26 seconds, and in the front of the peloton, there's a lot of teams here just wanting to stay on the front, and one team starts to move on the left, and then there's another team on the right, and it's just sort of a drag race almost. And in the meantime, the advantage for the sole rider out here in front is coming down all the time. And yeah, then will we see some of the guys in the GC try and take a sneaky one if they're in the right position. Will it be the sprinters? But I think Astana here and the man we talked about, Alan Burrow, he's definitely going to try, because where he's sitting in the GC standings at 6 seconds, it would be an interesting one. If he take that 3 seconds and then in the finish he gets up as well, you never know. He might be able to pull it off in the final and maybe take the late race leader jersey. So they're going to try, and you can see Astana colours are very much at the front here. You can see he's up there, and he's definitely going to have a go here, because the GC is still very much the GC for the moment, or more so the race leader jersey, is very much alive for him.
Yeah, and also the green jersey, Sean. He could be actually in the green jersey, which he's nursing at the moment. He wears green. By the way, I asked the question yesterday as to whether this was a mountain bike trail. It turns out it's a UNESCO World Heritage Centre, and there are cave paintings here, and indeed a museum to the history of humanity. So it's not a mountain bike track, Sean. Just thought I'd point that out. Looks like a mountain bike track, but it's not. Apparently it's far more significant in terms of archaeology and anthropology, so my apologies. There's 3 ologies you got there. 28.1 kilometres from home. They were very upset about it. It is not a mountain bike course. Yeah, well. Meanwhile, in the present, 21.6 kilometres to go, 9 seconds. I feel sorry for him. He's going to get a combativity award though, Sean. I'm not quite sure how many beers that will buy, but he deserves one.
Well, he certainly deserves it. He deserves it, and he deserves much more for the effort they've put in here. And it's it's something that we always talk about. These teams that get a wild card invitation, meaning they get an invite into the race, because they're not like the big teams where automatically they qualify to go to the big 3-week tours. And the teams, they just try and get exposure, getting up the road today. And we had those 3 teams represented because they need the exposure for their sponsors, and being a Spanish team as well, it's of huge importance that they get on live Spanish TV for a number of hours. It's a way of repaying their sponsors for the financial backing they give that team for the year and over many years.
Just look at the way that Astana here are eating up the tarmac. This is phenomenal. That's the end of our breakaway. Chapeau to our friend here from Burgos. That's our destination today. So we had to do it for the sponsors. Otherwise, the Dean of the Cathedral would have had a word. Through they come. Stand clear of the line. There's a train coming through, and just look at them go. This is for Aaron Burrow. Not only for the bonus seconds, but also for the green jersey. He trails by 3 points Primoz Roglic in that competition, and they clearly want him to deliver. I think it'll be a mean team that deny him, but Bora are interested as well. Mayus wants to get up here along with Martin Lass. 20.1 kilometres to go. The intermediate sprint will be in about 2 kilometres time. And here we are. Quintanillas is where we're heading through, but all eyes at the moment on Astana and what they can do for Aaron Burrow the Brave, they will call him in Tales of Yore a little bit later on. Movistar out to spoil the party as well. I'm not sure whether Valverde's starting to think about igniting a green jersey competition. Where is Michael Matthews and Team Bike Exchange? Surely they're going to have a sniff at this. Magnus Cort might be interested as well, or is it just still about keeping the GC men where they need to be? There's the green jersey being nursed at the moment on behalf of Primoz Roglic, who's in the red jersey, you can see. He may well want to fight for this as well, Roglic himself. Stranger things have happened. Burgos coming up as well. This is for Carlos Cornal, I think, for them. They will have an option. And is that Alligart for Cofidis as well, also joining the fun? How much fun this will end up being is anybody's guess by the time this winds out. Still a goodly distance to go, about 1,100 metres for the time being. It's been the longest lead out we've seen so far, Sean, and clearly it's worth burning a few matches for Astana and that green jersey.
Yes, well, they are burning matches here, and they took it up very early, and you can see there's a lot of teams trying to move up, and the teams that we see moving up, not maybe interested in getting up in the sprint itself, but just to be in a good position, because if it continues on after the intermediate sprint, that's where it becomes dangerous. And at this point, you're in that distance from the finish, where if teams start to ride, if there's a little bit of a side wind as well, then it could just go all the way from here on to the finish. So yeah, it's a nervous time for a lot of riders, but Astana taking it up real early, at least 4 kilometres to go to the intermediate sprint. They started putting it on at a huge pace.
Yep, they did. I think my math defeated me. We've got about 1,500 metres to go right now. It's at 16.7 according to the road book, where we will have our intermediate sprint. Everyone just allowing them to fry at the moment out front. It's a goodly pace, which means that we're unlikely, of course, to have any secondary breakaways just rolling off the front. A few hit and hopers are coming up right now. Quinn Simmons, I think, is for Trek, is getting himself up and into position. And a long train here for EF Education Nippo. I hope Astana haven't burnt themselves out. There we are. I've said it. I'd like them to take it, and I'd like Aaron Buru to be properly in green at the end of the day. He'll need another good finish at the end, because there's 50 points up for grabs, but at least for the time being, it's Ineos Grenadiers that are just encamped on the back wheel of the green jersey. Not that far away, the red jersey, as you can see, with Cofidis rider Aligat still making any use of himself. For them, 17.2, about 500 metres to go. I think they might be allowed their head here. I can't see anyone else spearing up through the middle, and as I say, it's suddenly Cofidis is starting to fill that void right now. You often get this if you get a double spear approach. About 300 metres now, and the green jersey in fourth in line. He's got his Spanish champion teammate there, Omar Freire, in the pale jersey with the yellow and scarlet hoops across the breast. I still wonder whether he's going to be allowed to have it. We should be at the sprint right now, so they've just slightly misplaced it as far as the road book is concerned. They do a little shimmy through town, and is he going to be allowed to turn a hot seat into owning the green jersey, at least for the time being, good and proper? Freire picks it up right now. I hope he can see the sprint line, and here he comes. Who else is interested in this regard? Oh, there's some heartbreakers out here as well. There he goes, Aaron Buru coming through into second place. I think that's going to be enough, but Fabio Jakobsen alive to the threat in the green jersey. If he's playing a long game, that might be your first look at him today, and it might well be a repeat a little bit later on. Jakobsen getting greedy here, Sean.
Yes, was that Jakobsen?
I think so. Let's have a quick look.
Seneschal?
Not quite sure. Here's Jakobsen, centre of the road right now, just on the throw. I believe he just took it off the nose of Aaron Buru, who was certainly up there in the frame. We'll get confirmation for you in just a moment's time. But nonetheless, De Koenig, they're not letting anything go away easily here.
Well, there's always riders that will just get in a good position, and if you're one of those fast guys, well, then you can take that sprint, against Aaron Buru. Although he is, quite a good one as well in a sprint. But the man there from De Koenig Quickstep was definitely that little bit faster than him. But they took it up a long ways out, and maybe they took it up at just too much of a fast pace. They should have controlled on the front of the peloton from Astana, and just wait until they get into that final kilometre, and then push it on with the team, because I think that was a bit of a mistake. They really went for a long one, maybe 4+ kilometres out, and the way they were pushing on, it was definitely going to burden some of the men from Astana a bit before the sprint.
Yep, and I think they did. He looked a bit exhausted by the time he finally got his release. Didn't win the intermediate, but picked up a rack of points as well. I think he got 18 for finishing second at the line there, Aaron Buru. So he should own the green jersey, at least for the time being. Pace is up. Bahrain and Ineos Grenadiers just marshalling it now. Well, we are nearly there. A couple of big loops to take as we drive ourselves into town, and still wait for confirmation of the intermediate sprint. Fabio Jakobsen is indeed declared as the man who took it on the line, ahead of Alex Aaron Buru, who gets 17 points. So Jakobsen it was, Sean, that won the intermediate.
Yes, well, he is, just he's testing himself maybe for the final sprint, because this day has been a one where you haven't made much of an effort, and we're ever so closer to the finish now, 14 kilometres. So to make that bit of a sprint, it just gets you maybe ready for the final sprint of the day. But Jakobsen, you could see there he won it comfortably enough, and now we can see again back to the same which we've been having for a long time today. Teams controlling for the moment, nobody pushing on again at this moment, just waiting and leaving the kilometres click down, and keeping the position where you need to be, and that's what the big teams are doing here with their leaders.
I'm getting nervous for this. This is going to be terrific. Now, on our approach, in about 6 or 7 kilometres time, we're going to take, with about 5.2 to go, we hit a roundabout. We only take a quarter of it, which is quite a technical approach to a big roundabout. Doesn't matter what size it is. Here's our destination, Burgos. So about 5.2, we take a roundabout. Then we take another one at 5. We take another one at 4.5. We take another one at 4. They just keep coming. About 2.2, as a little chicane, a left-right over the river at about 2.2, another roundabout at about 1.8, and then the most significant corner of the day is at 1.4 thereabouts, maybe about 1.6 actually. We take a long left-hander, and it opens up an arrow straight highway where you'll be expected to go and perform. If you are a sprinter, and you better have made sure that the feeds have been correct, you're well watered, and your mind's in place. I often feel sorry for the sprinters on days like today, Sean, because the weight of expectation comes as a rush right at the very end. You've had the entire day to think about it and get nervous. You and the other fast men, you're a special breed, Sean.
Yes, well, that's where they get their glory on a stage like this one today, and sometimes it's a very slow burner, and that has been the case today. But again, as I said, it could have been a real difficult day for everybody, because if it had been blowing, a very strong windy condition, and if it was a side wind, well, then it could have been a real hectic day for everybody. And I think if they had the choice, what we've had today, that's what the Royals will go for at the start of a big 3-week-long race. And now it's coming to the time where the sprinters are going to have to perform, and the pressure on some more than others, because they need to get results. And we're getting to the end of the season, the last big 3-weeker of the season, so more pressure. And if you haven't got results, well then the pressure is on. And this is the moment now that you have to be able to control yourself, not to make any mistakes, and just get the job done.
Confirmation, Aramburu leads the points competition. I'm so pleased for him. He owns that, at least for the time being. He's got to get a decent finish at the end, and to be honest, I think he's burnt his team out. Let's see how successful he is towards the end. There may well be, because there's so many points up for grabs. Starting at 50, I think the top 17 score. So there's plenty for him to go for in that green jersey competition. I'm pleased for him, Sean. He's in green, he owns it.
Yes, well, he definitely owns it, and he merits it because of his performance yesterday. And also, he's picked up a little bit of a time bonus there by finishing second. So now he's going to try and get up in this sprint. And yeah, if he gets a real good position in the final, his team can look after him. He's a rider that can finish in a sprint quite well. He's probably up against some riders faster than him, but you're always hoping that it will just go perfect for you in the final number of kilometres, and you get the opening in that final 200 metres if you're in a real good position. And that's what he'll be hoping for, and that he can get up and pick up some more bonuses. And you just never know. He will keep on trying, because he's going to take also points for the green jersey in the finishing sprint, so that's also in the back of his mind. And it's been a great start for Aramburu here, and he's going to continue on fighting now, because tomorrow is going to be a day where he's definitely going to lose time on this uphill finish.
Well, it's all part of the pilgrim route, isn't it? Starting in Burgos, the great cathedral in the centre of town. And of course, we are finishing in this so-called Jacobean year at Santiago de Compostela. So very much a religious feel to the start and finish of proceedings for this year's Vuelta. Won't be finishing in Madrid in that familiar finale. What about today? Well, it's about the GC men keeping safe, and of course the sprinters having their options as well. Alejandro Valverde is the sort of man who could end up making a noose of himself on a day like today. But it's all about looking after Miguel Angel Lopez and particularly Enric Mas, who was strong yesterday. AG2R Citroën getting to the front. Clement Venturini for them today, excuse me. We have Stefan de Wolf, and we also have Tauser as his lead-out men. They're doing a bit of softening up at the moment. Bahrain will be trying to look after Mikel Landa or perhaps Caruso after what was a disappointing day yesterday. They don't want to lose any more time today by being caught out. And if there are some gaps, and there's a few just starting to open up, it's a long string of riders for the time being, and you expect that with this kind of approach pace. 3 kilometres is the magic marker, of course, when it if there is an incident beyond that mark, then the GC men will be awarded at the same time as our finisher today, or our victor today. However, that margin, that point comes after some quite technical approaches. We're on the ring road. There weren't even roundabouts before the Barcelona games in Spain, not many of them anyway. Likewise, it was the same in France. And then town planners fell in love with them, and they're absolutely everywhere. Look at the pace here by Jan Tratnik, just being put in to make sure that nothing silly happens, and just to keep the compression where it needs to be late on. This is magnificent. It's Stan de Wolf who is second on the lead-out train, and it'll be Damien Tauser and then Clement Venturini for them. But Stan is the man at the moment for Belgium, dead centre of the road, as if to just keep tabs on it. Bert van Lerberg, who did a little bit of lead-out work earlier on. This is Joe Cherney, who's coming up for De Koning Quick-Step, the Czech time trial champion, setting a blistering pace at the moment. Trek also very much involved here with Karl Reinen. He'll be working for Quinn Simmons potentially, but it's about keeping Ciccone safe later on. It's a very, very high-speed approach. It's a good job we've got some nice roads here, Sean, but quite often good roads and wide highway cause their own problems by offering up space which has to be filled, and nature hates a vacuum, it seems, and they all just pour into it. Here we come into town.
So we can see here that the fight is on now to be on the front of the peloton. You could see there perfectly, the AG2R and some of the other teams just really pushing on 100%, giving it their all there. And we're into this point now where it's so important. If you're going to be going for the stage here, well, then you have to be in that top 20-30 riders as we negotiate these roundabouts.
Interesting it was that Tom Pidcock got himself up for that intermediate sprint, as you saw. Opens up dead centre, and here come Intermarché Wanty in the pale, the blue, the white, the blue, and indeed the tree frog green. That's for Riccardo Minali. Michael Matthews won't be that far off the point. He'll be trying to make one a little bit later on. He's got Luka Mezgec, who's just got himself back in after a technical by the looks of things, and Rob Stannard, so maybe leaning a little bit more on Rob Stannard than he might have done. Alberto Dainese for a DSM, who've been on the front all day, and all of a sudden they've been mobbed and disappeared. I hope they didn't burn all of their matches through the main reach of the day. We have Carlos Conal as well for Burgos. He'll be going for it. Jordi Meus or Martin Laas for Bora Hansgrohe. Brian thinks Martin Lass is the choice today. We shall see at the end of the day, I guess. Magnus Cort probably on duties for Hugh Carthy, but let us wait and see if he gets a free gets released to have a go. David Chimolai and Ismail Einhorn. I think it's Einhorn today, but Chimolai leading him out, along with Sepp van Mark potentially for Israel Startup Nation. We shall see. 6.9 kilometres. This is a huge roundabout that they have to take here as a left-hander. Go round most of it. There it is. is. That starts to unwind. In fact, that's at 7 to go. I've misread the roundabout. There's plenty of them to play with that we will see before we get to the end. For Smerch, for Lotto Soudal, it'll be Janssen van Rensburg. If there's a potential opportunity for Quebecer today, let us see. This is Asparano, who was in our breakaway, now riding it home. Milano, good choice for UAE Team Emirates, with Matteo Trentin potentially leading him in. If he gets sketchy, Trentin could take his own opportunities. This is De Koenig, wanting to make sure that they're bossing it out front. I don't want anything silly to happen. And right now, this is for Fabio Jakobsen, who looked nice and relaxed at the approach to that intermediate. How will he do at the end of today? Very well, I am certain. Arnaud Demare, of course. Groupama Francis de Jure have done so much work today. That's Pidcock, who got himself up in the intermediate. Don't think it's going to be him at the end of today. Stranger things have happened. Aberastori will be going solo for Kaya Rural in the green and white. Pidcock at the back. Job done, party done as well by the looks of it. Jasper Philipsen for Alpecin-Fenix, a choice of many today, and he could certainly make a big noise. Let us wait and see. At the moment, it's Astano just settling things down ever so slightly. This is Luis Leon Sanchez out at the front. That near skeletal look of his, and indeed the security bike's just giving that calm it down look, with the flat hands just being pushed down because they know that this is a technical section, basically telling them to watch out. This is a quarter of a roundabout only that they're going to take here with 5.5 kilometres to go. They do it rather nicely. And so there's a slight rise here. Now, there is a bit of a ski ramp into town, and it peaks with about 3.8 kilometres to go. So they climb very, very gently. It's almost like a motorway intersection, this. They'll get to the peak with around about 3.5 to 4 kilometres to go as we go around another roundabout. No pun intended. We'll then have, Sean, a short descent, about 800 metres, that will bring us to 2.8 kilometres to go.
Yes, well, we're into that section now where it does get a bit technical, but you can see in the front of the peloton, you know, there nobody pushing on a moment ago, but again here now we're starting to build the pace again, and it's just a fight all the time to try and keep control. We can see Groupama here, they're with a number of riders. We can see Trent in there. He's on the front here with Milano. So there's a lot of the sprinters and the leader men starting to appear here, but we can see there, the pace is not rapid at the moment, and that is always a difficult one to hold your position, because there will always riders come up on the outside and close the door on you, and then you find yourself back in that 15-20 position very quickly again. So it's a complicated one when the pace is not real high.
Big turn coming up in about 400 metres time, just cruising through. It's Guillaume Martin. He's maintaining his safe position. He's the GC man for Cofidis, and this is exactly what we were expecting. When there's so little space, this can happen. It's outside of the 3 as well, Sean, and this could be disaster for some of those who find themselves on the deck. And Bora look like they have been caught out more than most here. Let's have a look. Touch of wheels, Sean. It often happens, even on a wide open highway. Sometimes it has its own risks, and a lot of Burgos riders collected there as well.
Yes, well, right in the centre of the peloton there, somebody touching a wheel, and quite a number of riders down.
I'm afraid down. Let's hope not out. We will see in a moment's time. That is Gamper, who's on the deck, helping all and sundry up. The German champion Schachmann's hanging around here as well. That's bad news for him. And there's a whole load of riders, I'm afraid, that have found themselves compromised, and crucially, Sean, beyond the 3 kilometre mark.
Yes, well, we can see there we're certainly outside the 3 kilometre mark, and with the pace it was going there, that's always the risk. It's not going at a super fast rate, and they're very much bunched together, and that can be a problem because the touch of wheels and lots of riders coming down. We can see here, some of them looks like they're not looking good, looking like some of them have got injuries, not getting back on the bike, because the normal reaction is, you get a bit of road rash. You jump up, get back on your bike immediately, but you feel you have something, broken bones, well then you cannot do that.
Well, our thoughts with them, but our mind comes back to the head of the peloton at the moment, and this series of roundabouts. This will be one they spear straight over, and this is not a good look at all, I'm afraid. That's Jordi Meus for Bora Hansgrohe, who's clearly out of contention today. 2.6 kilometres to go. They all look like whatever injuries they are, let's hope that they are mild. Clever work by Primoz Roglic. He's guided himself up to the front, and no surprise to see that Ineos Grenadiers with Bernal also in a safe place. It's opened a few things up, not least of course for those who may well have counted themselves out of the day, but Jasper Philipsen is still up towards the front. So is Jakobsen right now. No sign of Francis Sergeur as it pans out just for the time being. The golden helmet of Richard Carapaz, the Olympic road race champion, is also here. 1.9 kilometres to go, and Aaron Burrow is here in the green jersey, so he may well get a magic carpet ride to that green jersey. Let us wait and see. It certainly hampered a few sprinters out there. Molano was in a good place, and so was Trentin, so we may get some expected results here today. 1700 metres to go. Now don't forget, this is near the big turn, and this is where it goes arrow straight all the way to the line. A lot of options, but don't go too early, Sean.
No, well, you can see 1.5 to go here. It's a long ways to the line, and we can see the teams, Alpecin-Fenix, Duconi, Quickstep are the ones who are bossing the front of the main peloton. I think Molano, we can see him there. He's just back in 5-6 position at the moment. Frances Dejoux starting to come up here on the outside, and there's still a lot of time. If you have a number of riders, 2-3 riders who can take you up, lots of time to do that.
Not suddenly a pinch point. Sorry, Sean. Just at the Flamme Rouge here, and AG2 Le Mondial Citroën were being hampered there. Clement Venturini trying to move up, and it was Francis Sergeur that made a big nuisance of themselves. Janssen van Rensburg still here, I believe, for Team Quebec. Let's wait and see. And UA look mob-handed here with Molano in a very good position. He's got Trentin, who's just trying to pick it up at the moment. Trentin still not released himself. He gets the elbow right now. Trentin looks very good. Aaron Burrows on the back wheel at the moment of Jagernik Quickstep with Fabio Jakobsen in a good place. Here comes Jasper Philipsen as well. Last 300 metres, it's going to be between them all, and Matthews is still here. Matthews is getting a big old grind at the moment, dead centre of the road. Is he going to have enough to finish this one off? Trentin leading out Molano. Molano gets the release, and he's gone. It looks like Molano's to lose with Matthews on his back wheel at the moment, but Jakobsen still not finished with the day. This is fantastic to the line. It's going to be on the throw between Philipsen and Jakobsen here. I think it went to Philipsen from Alpecin-Fenix. We will have to wait and see. The heads-up view there with riders mobbing across the road. But what drama we've had here, Sean. That was not a kind finish at all on the day. And there it is. Philipsen believes he's got it, just clenches his fist and punches the air. Some fast men around him, some strong men as well. Good finish from Michael Matthews. Congratulations being offered up here by all and sundry. Versmerch got himself a very good finish here as well, but it's gone to Alpecin-Fenix in what has been a brutal finale here.
Yes, well, it was a pretty hectic final there. We could see there was a number of times where it got very sketchy, where did tighten up, and we could see there was almost 2 sprints at a point here, because we could see just before this when Molano kicks off here with Matthews, and then we can see Philipsen and Jakobsen just left and right coming at the last moment, and Philipsen just getting it there by a tight margin. But again, we can see here Matthews in a real good position when Molano kicks off. We can see the other 2 riders, Philipsen and Jakobsen, just coming by on the left hand side and the right hand side, and they were the fastest in the final 10-15 metres.
Aberasturi, I think, got a top 5 or 6 position as well for Cairo Ral, so good effort by him. Good as well by Aaron Burrow, who adds to his points tally in that green jersey competition. We'll see how it pans out towards the end. Very strong performance, centre of the road from Michael Matthews, but spearing round the outside. Slightly boxed in Jakobsen at one point, and I think that was the difference between himself and Jasper Philipsen, who got a cleaner run to the line. Oh, we have had a brutal finish to what has been a reasonably benign day, if a little nervy, in the expectation of wind that never really came, but we kicked up a storm towards the end. And I think in the end, the right man won. Jasper Philipsen looked strong, and Alpecin-Fenix timed it beautifully, Sean.
Yes, well, it's all about timing, and we could see there Milano, Matthews, they were in a real good position because they had a lead out. Milano had a lead out man for a long way. Maybe Milano took it up just that little bit too early, but yeah, Jasper Philipsen and Jakobsen, just staying in the drafting, and that's what it's all about. You have to be able to stay in the drafting for as long as possible, but also not get boxed in. That is so important. We could see the way the two of them, they just found that space. They could move out. One was at the left hand side, the other at the right hand side, and all about the final 25 metres with that turner speed.
Confirmation then. Aramburu finished in 5th place. Good finish for the green jersey. Philipsen takes it ahead of Jakobsen. Michael Matthews very strong, always in a situation like that. Milano, who'd led it out, finishing in 4th place there. Fantastic. Wow, what a great finish, and joy for this man, Jakob Philipsen. All the talk was of Jakobsen today. Matthews in 3rd place ahead of Milano Aramburu. Arborastori it was for Caleruega, got a great finish in 6th place, having to do it all on his own with no lead outs. It was last that was the chosen man for Bora Hansgrohe, especially after the incident that took out a lot of their team. Minali finishing in 8th place ahead of Versmerch. Volodya Sudal, who offered up his congratulations first, I think it was, to Philipsen, and Alligart, who got up there for Cofidis as well. Well, the sprinters came to the fore, the cream rises to the top, and top dog at the moment as far as bragging rights for the quick men is Jasper Philipsen. A deserved victory, and there indeed is, a view of those further down the line. Here's your heads up right now. That was quite a delay. Meanwhile, Milano, first to go, went too soon, Sean. A danger on a wide open highway like this.
Well, it depends on what sort of sprinter you are. If you're one who want to go from a long ways out, well then, where he took it up here, I think it was, the good moment. But when you have riders, like Jakobsen, Philipsen, just still in the drafting there and waiting, also Matthews there in a real good position, then it's hard to keep it going. But, if you haven't got that explosive kick in that, final number of metres, then you have to go for a bit longer. So it depends on what sort of a sprinter he exactly is. But we could see there Philipsen just coming out at the right time and just getting the job done and getting to the line first. And we did see Philipsen last year as well, winning a stage in the Vuelta, so he clicks off his second stage here at the Vuelta.
Yeah, Jasper Philipsen then victorious today. Fabio Jakobsen in 2nd place ahead of Michael Matthews, and we'll see how it spins out for the GC. It'll be Roglic still very much in charge. They kept themselves very safe, Jumbo-Visma, and the red jersey stays with the great Slovenian. Some danger towards the end. We knew it would happen, especially with that big turn coming up, but in the end it happened with outside of the 3 kilometre rule, and I'm afraid there are some riders who are going to take a hatful today that they wouldn't have wanted to. It's an unkind game, this, Sean.
Yes, well, it's definitely a danger game, as we can see Madrasso there on the ground and looking like he's in a lot of pain. And as you said, it wasn't in the technical path where the crash happened. It was in a straight run there, but everybody is just fighting, nobody giving an inch, everybody wanting to stay up there, but also wanting to stay in the drafting of the riders who are in front of them. So all about keeping position, and they just leaning on each other, and then suddenly a rider touch a wheel, and when you're grouped like that, they're going to have a lot of riders go down. Where if it's going at a super fast rate, 60-65 kilometers per hour, it's stretched out a lot more.
And it's Philipsen who is in green. The mountain stays with Kuss. Baggioli remains the young rider, and Primoz Roglic is our glorious leader on a glorious sprint finish here today. So what have we got tomorrow? A very, very peaky finish, I can tell you. Be a flat day with a spiky ending. We'll hear from our winner in a few moments. Well, let's talk you through that final kilometre. There was the Flamme Rouge. We'd had an accident behind just to instill the focus, I guess you might say. Some shoulders going on out there, Sean. It wasn't the smoothest of entrees to the finish line, but in the end, I think the way it panned out with UAE setting the rocket alight, touching the blue touch paper, it was almost like a display really for Jakobsen and Philipsen. They owned the day.
Yes, well, we can see here it was UAE who were leading out on the the right-hand side of our picture, but we can see just before that on the right, we can see Seneschal was still on the front with his man on his wheel. Also, Philipsen was there, and they were just all waiting and following. And we can see here when Milano kicks, it was Matthews on the wheel, and it looked good for Matthews, but again, just hadn't that outright speed to hold on.
Great result. Jasper Philipsen takes it for Alpecin-Fenix ahead of Fabio Jakobsen. Let's hear from the day's winner.
Your team had won stage 2 and the first sprint of the previous Grand Tour. You had to do it.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yesterday they put it in the group chat of our team. And for sure it was a dream, but I didn't want to think about that because the chance was, the chance is always less high than it would be true. But I think this just shows how everybody from the team is really motivated and dedicated from the first sprint on in Grand Tour. And this is really a team effort, and I think we can be really proud of this.
Take us through the last kilometer. How did you do it?
It was amazing to see all my teammates there, and everybody was at the front line. So I had a lot of support from the team, and this is just how we can win sprints, and I think we did a really good job. So each of us can be very happy tonight, and we start on a good way this Grand Tour.
It's mission accomplished, or there's more to come?
Sorry?
Mission accomplished or more to come?
Yeah, for sure this was a first big goal, and I'm already really happy that it worked out the first sprint. So now we just go on and we try to add other ones, but I think we not only in the sprints we have strong guys, but also on other terrain.
Official.
Thank you.
Well, we'll see tomorrow. There's a big old